Hello and welcome to Fascination Street. I'm your co-host, Mika Pearson, and the host of the whole show, Jimmy Pearson.
Hello there, how are you everyone?
Hello there.
Hello there. So thank you very much for joining us this evening.
This show is sponsored to you by PMG Goods. Truly cos clothing by a member of our community, and if you put in the code FS 15% off, you will get 15% off every order that you ever do on PMG Goods over $40 American dollars. To go for you for that.
Yeah, you got it wrong.
Oh.
FS 15 off. Not percent, no percentage, no percentage needed at all there. So FS 15 off, and you will get 15% off every order over $40.
Dollar bills.
Dollar bill, yo, make it rain. So, in a change to normal format this evening, you will notice we are donning.
Yeah, I've got Peter, Friendship, and
I've got Radar.
And then we have got Sarah Pearson as
Jeruti.
And we have got these off our lovely friends, the Sandia Mountain. Now, they're very kind friends of ours, and they really love us. And if you look here, we have got our very own book, Inviting ET. And then it is signed by our favourite people,
Sue and Otter.
White Otter.
Sorry, Reverend White Otter. I stand corrected, said the man in the orthopedic shoes.
Oh, that's funny.
I don't know why that's funny, but it's funny.
I don't actually know.
So, as you know, tonight is the big one for us. It really is. We've wanted to have Sandia on for a long time.
10 hours later.
And we've got them. We've finally got them tonight. So it's a real big one for us because we love these guys. Yes. We love the story. And it really is. We're quite starstruck, really, aren't we?
Yes,
tonight?
It is.
Very starstruck. But as we always do, how's your week been? You had a good week?
I've had a lovely week.
Move the camera a little bit. We've got problems with our tripod, so if it goes a little bit off kilter, we do apologise slightly.
Oh, you gave me time to drink. Thank you.
You're more than welcome.
Monday, casual. Tuesday,
not so casual.
No. Wednesday, definitely not casual. Thursday, absolutely not casual. But then Friday.
Friday happened, didn't it?
It happened. We went to the Marlow Theatre and we watched Cinderella. And guess what it said? We are literally watching Peter Pan. Get it right.
She was going to see Peter Pan and it was actually Cinderella.
And we were all just like, oh my God, we're going to watch Peter Pan. And then when Miss said it's Cinderella, we all went, oh.
Mine wasn't that exciting. I've had a week off work.
Nah, it's normally not
So
exciting.
I've managed to have loads of time with the fam. Lots and lots of research because I've needed it. Because those that have been following me know that this is my second show in, 15 hours? Yeah, about 15 hours. So
And this big fellow hasn't had any sleep.
I've tried.
10 minutes.
Got up at 2 o'clock this morning to go on to Explaining Esoterica with Kelly. And we done nearly 2.5 hours, maybe 2.5 more.
And then when I woke up at 6 o'clock, you were still there.
Yeah, we're still chatting away with Kelly. We was having a bit of a debrief after the show. But yeah, if you didn't watch it, we were doing philosophy. We were doing Alan Watts, which was...
Alan Watts, never known the guy.
Yeah, you have. You've definitely heard him. You probably won't know him to look at, but you've definitely heard Alan Watts because I listen to a lot of his stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
He's old people stuff. I'm sure when the time's right, you'll get into it.
Okay, while you're doing that,
it's about Zen Buddhism.
Oh, okay.
He was the guy who kind of made it more popular, like in the Western world, than it was in the Eastern. So, yeah, we'll leave it.
Okay, while you're doing that,
right,
I'll just daydream.
Yeah, zoom off over there somewhere. So that went really, really well. I think we managed to cover about half the topic that we wanted to cover. There was still loads more left as well. So I think that's left it wide open for Kelly and I to have a second episode. There were a couple of exclusives as well. Mainly to take away from the fact that Kelly, I and Mika.
Hello.
That's him. We'll be doing a lot more work together. We're going to be working on projects where we're combining 2 shows into one for certain guests and things.
This will no longer be Fascination Street.
Oh,
hello.
Hello, Sue and Otter have joined us nice and early.
Hey.
Oh, apologies. We didn't mean to intrude. How are you, folk?
We are very, very well, thank you.
Yes, we were just
plugging.
Oh, you're sporting something fancy, I see.
Absolutely, and I just like rubbing myself like this. It's a natural thing for me. That and lots of nakedness, as you've already found out.
Oh no, you had to do that on camera.
Yeah, I went there. I did.
So how has your week been? What's been going on?
He's probably going to tell you more now. We've managed to go through that bit, but we're going to go through it again for you because we like you. Go on.
Oh, well,
Monday was absolutely horrible. Monday's Monday, not the weekend. Not good. Tuesday is all right. It's a bit entertaining, actually. Wednesday, we went swimming. Lovely. Thursday, we did PE.
Physical education.
Yep.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then Friday, we went to the Marlow Theatre in Canterbury and we watched Cinderella when it was supposed to be Peter Pan.
What? It was supposed to be Peter Pan and you got Cinderella instead? Oops.
Well, it was more better. There was more dancing.
Well, see, now you're being told to get in touch with your feminine side.
Oh, sheesh. So they can see your pretty face.
You what?
Scoot yourself over this way so that they can see your pretty face.
Why?
Yeah, come on, big boy. Come and squish it now.
Break the camera.
We're not being too English for you, are we, Otter?
Oh, well, not quite yet.
Hey.
Oh, well, that's just the British
The world's
way.
made up of all kinds.
Absolutely. Even those that do like musicals.
So do we sound like we have an accent to you?
No.
No.
Okay, good.
Not really. No, I mean, the amount of other people that we have, I mean, predominantly our audience is American.
Yeah.
Pretty much all of our guests are American. So, yeah, we're over that.
Okay.
Cute.
Well, if we say anything that you don't understand or you say anything we don't understand, we'll flag each other and go, say what?
Yeah, there we go. That's the code word. Say what?
Say what?
I'm expecting Otter to say that a lot to us.
Oh yeah, probably.
And obviously, as I said to you earlier in earlier messages, that the way that we speak in the southern part of England, it's difficult with the T situation. Yeah. So trying to say Otter for me takes a lot of hard work. I have to think about it before I say it.
Yeah. Okay.
So it comes across Otter. All right, Otter. Well, proper. proper Southern. It doesn't get much more Southern than this, honestly. It's outrageous.
Fabulous.
Do you know what? I think we'll waiver the bio because you're here.
Oh, well, okay. Well, what do you want to know and how do you want to start? And we'll tell you whatever we know.
Well, I
I've got
think
some questions.
maybe we should have a cup of tea first.
Well, I think that sounds good. I've got mine.
Slab of cake? Anyone?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Although,
Leave some out for our Ponty friends.
although Otter, is the chef. You like that?
Yes.
The hat. Come on, tell us about the hat, Otter. Everyone wants to know about the hat.
Explain your medicine man hat.
Medicine hat. Well, in the 1800s in this country, early 1800s in this country, gentlemen had started switching their head apparel around. It just so happens that some of the indigenous people of the country at that time acquired hats similar to this because of Indian wars, so on and so forth. And subsequently, it became dubbed a medicine hat.
Awesome.
So there's actually Nebraska, Medicine Hat, Nebraska, or Wyoming, I forget. One of those two states there's a town named for Medicine Hat. And the logo of the town is the hat I have on.
It's I mean, it's amazing. I mean, it's one of the most striking things because obviously when I first got to hear you guys and that, I mean, you always want to know who's who. So you go online, you always do a bit of research. And the first thing I noticed about Otter was the hat. And I was like, I really like that hat. That is a cool hat.
Thank you.
And yeah, normally when it comes to me, I'm a hat and watch kind of guy. I love hats and watches. And
well, we recommend proper men's hat shops to fit the right size. This where we acquired this was a proper men's hat shop.
Yeah, it's
so very traditional.
Does the band come with it as well, or is that something?
No, that's a separate piece that I acquired through an indigenous art supplier.
Okay. So it's nothing that you picked up on your shamanic journeys because you have been on quite a shamanic journey over the years, haven't you?
No, he has a hat band that's on his other hat that he actually had someone volunteer 40 hours of beating time to create a hat band for him, sitting here in our living room in front of us doing it for 2 weeks. Is that how long it took her?
About 7 days.
Yeah. At least a full week of beating all day long, every day kind of thing. And we watched her create something that fits around the size of this. He's got it on one of his other hats. But the woman who did it happens to be a traditional Lakota sun dancer. And so we watched a sun dancer with all kinds of energy, specifically put energy into the beadwork for the other hat band that he's got. So he's got several. The other one that was created by the sun dancer, indigenous women here in the United States stop him on the street and say, "Excuse me, sir, may I see your hat band?"
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a real conversation. Well, there you go. I'm half a world away and it's a conversation starter for me for a fact. So
there you go.
To have that on your own front door must be like absolutely
it's part of the shock factor.
Shock and awe?
I think within a couple of minutes of even knowing you, I don't think there's actually any shock factor anymore, buddy. I really don't.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Right. Okay. So let's start with the lady, if you don't mind.
Go right ahead.
We can do that.
So what type of drawings did you draw back in the day before the Sandia gang asked you to sketch them?
Oh, boy. All right. Well, first of all, the last time I drew a face of any kind, I was 17. And that would have been
40.
approximately 1976, 77, somewhere in there, just to give you an idea of the last time I drew anything like that.
So a couple of years ago then, yeah?
Yeah, just a few. So
a shade.
It wasn't until after we'd been talking to Tilcom for probably 4 or 5 months, would have been after the first of the year, that I dug out a sketch pad at his request, because he was hinting strongly that while they could not pose for photographs or provide any electronic photographs, video evidence, that kind of thing, there was a gray area in that people who witnessed them or spoke with them telepathically had no problem if they wished to sketch whatever it was or whoever it was that they saw. And so what happened is I started drawing Teokum, and he would correct me. And then he would correct me, recognizing that it was the first actual artwork I had done in 4 decades.
Wow.
And so the original images that you see, Teokum's original sketch had dark around the edges of the head, because I kept drawing the head and he kept saying, it's a little bigger. And I draw it a little bigger. No, it's a little bigger than that. And so because I was new to coming back to charcoal, that original sketch was awkward more than for my skill set than anything else. So you can see the development of my own returning to artwork from Teokum's original first sketch to whatever is being put out now. And do they come and observe it here at our studio? Yes. We will be sitting in one room and hear them rustling around in the studio, especially if I have something new on the easel, on a very regular basis. Honest to God, really, Mika. They show up at our house and inspect whatever the new thing is.
If it's a Sasquatch, there's
the Sasquatch show up. If it's one of our Zeta friends, their Zeta friends show up. And I know that Teokum is now nudging me and saying, Sue, in the next 12 months, we're going to have you sketching other star nations that are going to be involved with official first contact. And I'm going, I've seen a few of them, but not all of them. Well, if you send me models, maybe that might work.
Yeah.
Send.
Just stand him in the corner over there. Just
That's right. Yeah. How would you like your pose, sir, ma'am?
That's kind of how it works.
Kind of is, because I let all of
experience,
them now,
Otter.
I let all of them choose whatever facial expression, pose, emotional message they wish to send. And so, Mika, you've got PETA peeking around a door, and it's peeking around the door of friendship. And I had it all drawn. And the word and the double ring, meaning infinity, the infinity symbol, along with the word friendship. After I was all done with all the rest of it, I thought I was done. And Peter came back and he said, Sue, I need you to add something else. And he instructed me specifically to add the infinity symbol and the word friendship on the door he was peeking around. So that's that was Peter's choice.
You have no idea how made up he is with this shirt. You really don't. It's like Christmas has come early for the little guy.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that.
That's good.
Yeah,
absolutely. So you've had many creative passions, quilt maker, clothing designer, etc. What got you into all this? Was it just something as you kind of got? Because I mean, we all pick up these little bits and pieces as we go along in life, don't we? I mean, there were so many things I used to do. I mean, I used to be into making sort of like vintage military models and things growing up, and I haven't done that for years.
Well, I cycle through various creative things. When I first met Otter, I was still making sacred Lakota star quilts and sacred clothing for ceremonies for people and designing them from scratch. I guess it was about the time I was Mika's age that I realized that if it was right brain and creative, if I saw somebody else do it, then I felt like I could try it. And so I learned to draw actually by not drawing myself, but by sitting behind a sketch artist and observing what he did for a long time. It's kind of like going onto YouTube and watching a YouTube video of somebody else do something. And then you get the, oh, well, maybe I can do this too bug. And so you try it. And so if it was creative and right brain, whether it was drawing or painting or sewing or designing, that was easy for me. Left brain, numbers, forget about it. Not
No,
going to
I can relate to
happen.
that. Yeah, absolutely.
Seriously dyslexic.
Yeah.
So numbers in me, I have Otter double check my numbers and my math all the time because I turn things around, I say things backwards, and I don't even know I've done it.
Yep.
So that's that. If I see something really neat and cool, that's an old time skill or something that I've never given a whirl to, then I'll just get the equipment or whatever it is I need to do and try it and see if I like it.
Yeah, fair play. And
So-
it's, I always say to Mika, through life, that is the best thing. You know, don't ever be afraid to try anything. If anyone's having a go at something, look, have a go, get involved. You know, what have you got to lose? Because you never knew it before you tried it. And if you're good at it, then what have you lost? You know?
True. True.
Absolutely. So the next one is going to be a shotgun question for you both. All right. It's not that exciting. What are each of your backgrounds like with respect to the paranormal and ET contact? Now, I know, Stu, yours is quite varied, isn't it?
Both of ours are.
Oh, yeah.
You can start on this one. Both paranormal and ET. How long you got?
We've got as
Well,
long as you want. I mean, if
this
needs be, we
all-
can always
this-
make it 2-part.
You never know.
Started in 1960 for me when I woke up and found 3 Zetas standing around my bed in my bedroom.
He was your age, Mika.
When they realized I was awake, the wall at the foot of my bed opened up into a portal, and the 3 of them walked through it and disappeared off into the yard. From that point on, I began to start having dreams and visions of other people from other places. Didn't understand a lot of it, and went from there. From my late teens into my early 20s, I was involved with the military, and that was insane in its own existence without the added things that showed up in my experiences in Southeast Asia. That's a whole nother conversation in itself. But
very documented, wasn't it? A lot of the events that occurred out there with regards to our friends. It's because I've done a little bit of study on that myself with regards to ET phenomena and activity during that conflict.
Did many of the guys talk about it at all behind in the barracks or at night? Did they share information about, hey, watch out, there's something weird, or you'll never believe what we saw?
Not too much.
Okay.
Not too much at all.
So I think one of the things,
of course, everybody in the late 60s, early 70s, you start talking about seeing ETs or Sasquatches, and they want to lock you up.
That's true. That's true. At that point in time, it was not okay.
It wasn't
to
okay.
open up about all that
I mean,
stuff.
it really opened up for me in 1984. I'd been involved with a woman who I ended up marrying, who was an Episcopalian, and was involved in a lay healing ministry. You understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got involved in the lay ministry and started experiencing lots of different forms of energy. And went to the church. What's this? What's this? Why am I feeling this? What's this all about? Oh, that's the Holy Spirit. Whoa, 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 wait a minute. There's more going on here than you're talking about. And after spending a couple of 3 years of beating my head against the wall trying to get answers, I started exploring other avenues of books and readings and people to expand my understanding of energy. And that set me out on a shamanic path.
That's cool. I mean, it's very, the show that we done this morning with Kelly, I mean, it was the study of, I don't know if you're not familiar with Alan Watts at all, the British philosopher. And he was trained in, he started studying Buddhism from a very young age, but yet his path led him down the road of becoming a priest, Christian priest. But then obviously he knew with that, I mean, there are a couple of other contributing factors, that it wasn't the be all and end all, and there was more to it. So he took up more Buddhist kind of studies, and he became very well known for bringing more of sort of like the Eastern culture to the West and making it more popular, especially during sort of like the underground years, if you prefer.
Right. Well, see,
So,
for me, following the more natural earth, wind, fire, and air was simpler because I had been thrust into that environment from being a young boy. By the time I was Micah's age, I was running field tractors and cultivators and working in the fields of citrus and horticultural nurseries. And so I, at a very early age, learned that plants can be dug up and moved and replanted and all kinds of things like that, let alone the heavy construction and engineering background too. So before I was 10.
yeah, I mean, when we grew up, I mean, there was a lot. I mean, I was a son of an infantry soldier, and a lot of the food that we used to get when I was a child, it was food that we hunted.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
I mean, there was a lot of living off the land, growing, and like for me, I mean, that was an absolutely golden upbringing. It really, really was.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
being stuck out in like a set until stupid o'clock in the morning, waiting to catch like your next rabbit for dinner tomorrow or something like that. And it's, you know, it's something I don't think a lot of the young'uns nowadays really get an opportunity to kind of be able to experience, if you prefer. And
Right.
Right. There's
and when
nothing
you're out
like an
there,
appreciation for something than having to really work hard for it.
it's not just that as well. I mean, it gives you a greater feel for nature and the land itself, because you understand from an early age that that land provides you with life and sustenance. So it's as much of you as you are of it.
Most definitely.
True
It's
enough.
that connection. It's making that connection and understanding.
Absolutely.
You know.
Agree.
So, you know, I grew up on a 1,200-acre citrus ranch and ornamental horticultural nursery in Southern California. So,
Yep, I think we're gonna touch on that one in a little while, actually, Otter, because I think there's a couple of cheeky little bits we want to find out about you on that one.
okay.
Don't look worried. It's okay. It's okay. We've checked with the local authorities. Everything's good. Sue.
Yes, sir.
You're I'm so sorry. Your paranormal and extraterrestrial beginnings, if you will, please, my dear.
All right. Well, okay. I would have been 3.5, 4 years old when I saw my first extraterrestrial go through a wall. And I wasn't even at my home in Iowa. I was at my grandparents' house, not very far from Niagara Falls, between Canada and the United States, up in that area. Okay. After that, it would have been, my next memories of unusual stuff would have been about age 6, first grade. I remember having to close the closet doors of my bedroom closet to keep the extraterrestrial Zeta-looking aliens from coming into my bedroom. They would come through the roof and into the closet space, come out of the closet always, and surround me. And so at age 6, it took me from age 6 until into my 50s before I could sleep with the closet door open, if you can believe that strangeness.
No.
By the time I was 9 or 10, I realized that I was different. I had different dreams than other kids. I had different interests than other girls. At that point in history, Neil Armstrong was landing on the moon, okay? And so I followed that NASA Apollo program as a young girl and kept a scrapbook. And it was the only gal that I knew that read any science fiction. Because if you talked about Isaac Asimov or one of the other authors, Frank Herbert, or any of the good Bradbury, any of the good old authors, none of my girlfriends knew anything about who they were, much less what they wrote. By the time I was 17, I'd already seen 3 that different extraterrestrial and possibly 4 different extraterrestrial star nations.
Wow.
And the list keeps growing. I did not start my clairvoyant medical intuitive practice until I was almost 30, because it wasn't until then that I really realized that all of the images that I have when I close my eyes at night weren't just made up imagination, that they were real places and real people and real things. And when I found out the level of detail, then my friends kind of kicked me in the seat of the pants to go become clairvoyant and medical intuitive for a career. I've done my share of ghost busting. I've done my share of learning of other traditional methods of dealing with darker energy forces, if you want to call it that. We've done a lot of study together about the multi-dimensional aspect where spirituality, quantum physics, known stuff and unknown stuff all kind of merge into the same melting pot, and everybody's scratching their heads trying to figure it out and puzzle piece it together.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We come at it, and we've always come at everything paranormal, extraterrestrial, multidimensional, taken the woo factor straight out of it, and just trying to make common everyday sense of it. Most things, if we break them down, are pretty simple.
Yeah.
As long as you don't get freaked out that, well, yes, there's a ghost standing in the corner. Once you get over that, then you can say, okay, well, can I help you? And start a dialogue. It's the same thing with our extraterrestrial friends. Once you get over the fact that ET has shown up, then you can wave, say hi, and say, hi, can I help you? And start a dialogue and learn a little bit more. So we really do see a lot of researchers, even if you look at a lot of the paranormal ghost busting shows, the minute they find a ghost, and they run out of the room. And or they stop to analyze it right then. They cut off the conversation, leaving the ghost hanging, going, wait a minute, I just said hello and you're running away.
Yeah.
Wait, I wanted to talk to you. Come back. And so we try and teach all of our students that having our extraterrestrial friends show up is only the first step. The next thing is back and forth communication. Don't you want to learn something? Don't you want to share information? Don't you want to try and make a friend if you can? You got to get over that first startle response or the, oh my God, they look weird response.
Yeah,
so that's
they don't look any weirder to us than we probably look to them.
Yeah, true.
You know?
So ghost busting and paranormal stuff, and then I meet this guy. Oh,
bless him.
It's all your fault.
The ghost in the corner is right behind me.
Actually, we do have a chair in the corner. I don't know if
resident.
I can. So there is a chair behind Otter. You can barely see the chair, but we have a cowboy. Looks like he's coming from about the 1880s. 1870s by his dress,
or so
that he actually literally comes in the house. We catch him every once in a while, and his favorite chair is that chair in the corner because he can see us in kibitz.
That's right.
Okay.
But you have to ask her about when she first came to my house. She walked in the door. She walked in the door and backed out the door 3 steps and said, I'll try this again.
Was it a total energy blast?
Yes, it was a total energy blast. It was like walking into a museum, first of all, because Otter's been collecting stuff. Let me see if I can show you. Do you see that display case behind us?
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're looking at is a mastodon tooth.
Wow.
A cave bear claw, a dinosaur egg, a cave bear jaw,
Manacle jaw.
mandible
Mandible.
jaw, and then a couple of eagle skulls and
harpy
obsidian
eagle.
knives. Oh, and a petrified whale ear.
Yeah.
Standard.
So,
I mean, would you have anything else?
Well, that's just one case in one space. Sorry. The whole house is like that.
That's
Only
brilliant.
various things that he's been collecting
For a lifetime.
for an entire lifetime. And so most all of it is the real deal stuff. It's not like the cheap knockoff from China kind of thing.
Replicas.
And so I walked in the door, hit the wall of energy of all of this combined spiritual shamanic stuff of 4 decades and went, okay, give me just a second here. That was a lot. You live in this all the time, he said. And I went, okay. How long did it take you to get used to it? It actually took me about 72 hours to kind of really get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it was bad. It was just a lot.
Yeah, of course. And not only that as well. I mean, like with, so many other historical sort of like original artifacts and things like that as well. I mean, a lot of those do have a lot of residual energy, don't they? Because, some of them were intently loved, they were intently held, they were used for certain purposes. There'd be something special that someone wouldn't leave the house without. It was becoming, maybe part of their daily ritual. I can't leave the house until I've got my little pot with me, and that's going to have that energy live on.
That's right.
Forever,
You're right. So the imprint. Yep.
That's right.
Yeah, we got a house full of imprints.
Mm-hmm. Imprints on.
Yeah.
Got a house full of gas.
That too.
Fantastic. Right, so I have a question from my good lady Sarah.
Okay.
And it was, how do the medical intuitive readings work? Because I'm not sure if you know or not, but Sarah is actually disabled.
No.
And she's aware that I tell you what, let's spin you around so you can actually speak to Sarah. So there we go.
Hey girl. Medical intuitive readings are real simple. It's detailed clairvoyant work, but because I have a background in training in both animal and human medicine, when I was in college, I took animal pre-med for veterinarians and human pre-med to go to regular medical school, and had to learn anatomy, physiology, all that stuff. So chemistry, biochemistry.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look in the human body, my advantage is I know what I'm looking at, first of all. I frequently know exactly how it works within the whole body. I know how to recognize different cell types. And because of the clairvoyant work, I can take somebody, go back in time, look at them at a specific date in the past, like when there's an initial onset of a problem, bring that forward to now, compare the two, see if anything's changed, and then ask whoever is answering my questions, my sources, if you will, what they would do or what you could do by yourself versus what you got to go back to a medical professional and seek help with. So if I have somebody's full name, birth date, and the city and state or city and country location, then I've got one and only one person that I can look at and ask questions about and receive detailed images of. So that's how I do my regular old everyday stuff and have since 1991 when I went full time.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So it's clairvoyant work with medical background knowledge, and then extra learning and energy work and nutrition, emergency medicine, and all kinds of stuff, hypnosis on top of that, because even after college, I never stopped learning.
Yeah.
So,
that's amazing.
So you could call it being kind of like a walk and talk and CAT scan.
Been through many of them.
I bet. So that's what and how. So if you're ever curious or interested, you just let me know. That's easy.
Believe me, I've been through everything the NHS actually has to offer, and all they tell me now is you'll deteriorate. All we have is pain control.
Oh boy. All right. Well, let's see if there's any other options.
Yeah.
That's buprenorphine.
Okay.
and I take that obviously on a 7-day patch and orally as well.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, let's see if there's any other options you got, and anything else that your National Health Service hasn't tumbled to yet. Maybe we can come up with some ideas. Who knows?
Great. Absolutely.
Sure. We can look and find out. So we'll do that at some point in time. We'll talk after we get off the air. Sounds
Brilliant.
good. You look good and Drudy, by the way.
I love it.
Excellent. Right. Okay. So, Sue, thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome. No problem.
Now on to Otter.
Let me get the
So,
tablet.
Otter. Let me clear my throat for this one. do you want to get comfortable or have a cigarette or anything
Yeah,
first?
he might.
I don't want you to start
ask your
sweating.
question.
Get on with it.
So, Otter, you grew up on a ranch. What stories do you have from your youth? Maybe, I don't know, an outhouse or anything like that, maybe? Yep. We'll let you do that one first.
I don't know if I'm going to get supper tonight.
That's all right, Sue. Easy soak noodles are always an option.
There was an incident that took place in 1966 where myself and
Tell him how old you were.
16.
All right.
So where myself and a couple other gentlemen decided that it was Halloween, and that we were going to liven up the Halloween downtown area of my hometown. Well, my hometown has a slope that runs from south to north. And we took a field trailer and loaded a couple of outhouses on it and a couple of bales of straw and set it on fire and started it down the main drag of my hometown, where there's at the end of the main drag, City Hall and a fountain. So we're using our cars to bump this trailer till we get down within a couple blocks of the downtown area, and we both turn off and leave it. This trailer goes sailing right down there about 25 miles an hour, hits the curb and starts to flip.
No.
In midair, comes down in the fountain with the outhouses on top of it all busted up and fire coming out of everything. So I wasn't a real good boy back in those days.
He's not a real good boy still.
Why? Why?
I know, right?
Why?
Yeah. I just need you to know that is not a cool thing to do. All right? Although we've got a big hill down there, don't. All right, not advised.
I hadn't actually given them all the information on that at all. I just gave them an example of something.
Well, one of the other ones, high school, 1967. This is back when cherry bombs were cherry bombs.
Yeah,
and
proper cherry
M80s
bombs.
were M80s. We used to flush them. We used to light them and flush them down the toilets and blow the toilets off the floor.
At the high school. Yeah, he was a bad boy.
Oh yeah.
Just don't
Bad.
get
Yeah, is the statute of limitations up for that stuff?
I would hope to God.
Yeah, you just told the world I'd hope to God too.
But at the end of the day, if you could go back and do it again, would you change a thing?
My youth? No, I mean, I worked at Disneyland when I was in high school. Drove heavy equipment, drove semi-tractors and trailers with big trees into the city of Los Angeles. I did things no other teenager that I know of ever had an opportunity to do.
Well, on the subject of trees, you found a Christmas tree for a very famous place. And where was that place?
That was the Washington tree.
And
For
us
in Washington, you have to,
For DC, for the Christmas tree for DC.
for the White House.
White House.
You have to be specific. Remember, you're speaking to the UK.
Okay,
we're foreign. Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
You know
So
that
big White
that
House thing that the president.
prestigious monolith that exists in the
In the-
District of Columbia. That's where the tree went.
Yeah, you mean that little White
That
House
little,
thing?
that little
Yeah,
White House
yeah.
right there in
Just
downtown
off the
DC.
South Lawn.
Yeah,
you know?
Pennsylvania
Yeah,
Avenue. That
We've
one.
got one very similar to that in London called Buckingham Palace or
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
like finding the Christmas tree for that.
Yeah, there's a lady we know called Liz that lives there. She's quite a nice lady, apparently.
Yeah, I've
I
heard
don't have
good
much time
things.
for it myself.
Yeah, she's almost her and my mother are just about the same age. So
That's right.
They
That's
don't know
right. They
each
were
other.
born about the same year.
yeah.
Fantastic.
Yep.
So-
Yep. But no, he did. He found the Christmas tree for the White House one year.
I also know, obviously, because I've followed you for quite some time now, that you're also a qualified chef as well, Otter. Have you ever made food for famous people or been asked to work anywhere famous?
All of the above. During the Reagan administration, I was offered a job in the White House kitchens,
Wow.
which I turned down because I wasn't going to go through the security system to get in and out of that place on a day-to-day basis. It's just a little more. It's like how should I say, military school with fences and opportunities to leave. But it's not an easy route to take for somebody to work.
No, I can imagine that'd be like a total butt ache getting in and out every single day. Just the pure sort of like invasion of privacy.
I couldn't carry my own hand tools with me.
Yeah,
in
you
and
can't
out.
carry in your own chef's knives
Couldn't
like you
carry
would in most
nothing.
kitchens.
Well, that's yeah. I mean, obviously, because I'm merchant navy. I mean, I work with a lot of chefs there, and I know that every week they have their own
Set of tools.
on board, and that's it. And your chef's knives are what define you as a chef.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a bricklayer and his trowel. It's
Yep.
they go hand in hand, right?
That's right.
So, okay, so we got that one out of the way. Being a chef, you must know about cooking exotic foods from all over the world. Can you elaborate?
Well, in the mid 80s, I was working at a restaurant called Dominique's in Washington, D.C., which had an international reputation for wild game, both from this continent, South American continent, and the African continent of this world. So over the years of my employment there, I think I've seen just about everything from elephant to raccoon come through there.
What kind of things have you had to bone out, or just name for Mika some different species of things that you've cooked?
Hindquarter of zebra, hindquarter of lion.
Lion?
Lion?
Yep, lion.
We're British. We get like at best maybe a rump steak or sausages, my man. That's about as exotic as we get in the UK.
Fish and chips.
Oh, and
Lion
fish and
must be a department store over there.
It must be, yeah.
It's actually a cake company. Lions.
Okay.
But no, I mean monkey, zebra, just various different animals, alligator tails, crocodile tails.
That is amazing.
Yep. And they come in whole.
Mm-hmm.
One piece.
Yeah, no kidding. And you have to know how to prepare. If
Yeah,
somebody
of course.
sends you an alligator tail, skin still on, what do you do?
Exactly. Because I mean, we know for a fact they are not cheap articles to obtain if you're ever in a fortunate state enough to obtain them anyway. So the last thing you want to be doing is
They're
doing
commercially hunted in this country. I mean,
Are they?
I can go to our local meat butcher shop here that I use and actually order alligator meat, elk, venison, buffalo, bear, wild boar,
Wow.
pheasant, quail, pigeon.
Pheasant. I grew up eating a lot of pheasant because, as I say, like going out doing the hunting thing. But it's become a very, very seasonal thing now. You can't go out like you used to be able to back in sort of like, the late 70s, early 80s. And,
Yeah.
They've become very sort of like, there's only certain times that you can get it. And, if you.
No, you've got to normally have like a hunting pass now.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got to have
And
that.
it's
Where
the
you
same when
could
go
used to
fishing.
just go out, right, see you later, going to be back in 3 hours. come back with one chicken.
Yeah.
There you go, there's dinner done.
And the same as fishing as well, because you do that every year when you go on holiday with Granddad, don't you?
I only do it now, not that often, because I'm normally the caravan spending time with Nan, because I never really spend time with her. So, where all the time I could just go over to Gogs and go, hi, I'm just going to spend time with you now.
We used to be able to river fish any time, but nowadays, because of the fish and trout as they are now, you know, again,
we understand.
You cannot fish unless you have a permit. And if you're caught illegally fishing, the next thing, you know, you're arrested. It's bizarre.
Oh, yeah. You have to have hunting licenses and fishing
licenses here too.
Here in the United States.
Yeah, I'm a big fisher person. I love fishing.
Fortunately for me and for other veterans in our country, we're allowed to use a couple of not allowed normal weapons, like crossbows for one.
Yes.
Because if you're a 100% disabled veteran, you can legally hunt with a crossbow. We're during archery season and black powder season.
That's
Yeah, this guy knows a little bit more than the average person about the black powder weapons and what rifles and
of course,
things along those lines.
Should we go on that one now?
Maybe. Why not?
That was a bit further down. So if I end up going back to a question that I've already asked later, it's
we should finish your question about has he made anything for famous people?
Okay, famous people. Otter, talk to us.
There was a play going on at the Kennedy Center. This was 85. Liz Taylor and her entourage had attended the show.
Liz Taylor.
Yeah.
Wow.
Calls up the restaurant and says she wants to bring a group of people in for champagne and dessert.
As you do.
As you do.
So I ended up helping the pastry chef come up with a Grand Marnier truffle.
Yeah, Grand Marnier.
So you made Grand Marnier truffles for how many?
We made enough to feed an army. But it was all stacked in a Christmas tree shape in a cone pyramid. There must have been close to 200 truffles in that thing.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
When you're a chef at a very famous restaurant, there are a number of people who really don't want to be seen coming in the front door of the restaurant. And so if there's an alleyway, sometimes there's limousines that pull up in the alleyway, and these very famous people come waltzing in through the kitchen to a special off the main drag dining room. And so the number of people that came waltzing through the kitchen who waved at Otter and said, "Hi." You remember?
No. No, I met numerous congressmen and senators over the years of my employment there, frequented the restaurant, and would a lot of times come in over the loading dock rather than from the main street, which was Pennsylvania Avenue.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, I don't know if you ever remember, there was a big restaurant up in London called Langan's. Which is run
doesn't
by
ring a bell right off.
Michael Caine. It was quite
sure. Yeah.
When I first started doing my silver service training aboard our ships, it was those that franchised that restaurant on board where I learned how to do my silver service training. So whenever you had people, because obviously I don't know if you've seen geographically where we are, but we are like the closest point to mainland Europe.
Right.
So our ships sail from the port of Dover to the port of Calais.
Yeah.
So if you've got people that aren't using the Channel Tunnel, they'll use that.
Sure.
On board, we have a club lounge, and then we also used to have the silver service restaurant as well. So again, the amount of different celebrities that we used to serve on a daily basis, and it used to be you'd walk in. Some days you wouldn't have anyone, and then there'd just be like one person you would not expect to see there, and you're trying to serve them, and you are so starstruck, and you're just I mean, being back of house, I mean, that was probably a lot better for you, right, Otter? Because I mean, when you're right there, and you just sort of like you're trying to take someone's order, and you're like,
Can I take
Can you sign that for me at the bottom there? To my best friend, Jim.
Funny.
You've met a couple of famous people.
Yeah, I've met a lot of famous people.
Wasn't one from School of Rock?
Yeah, famous actor Jack Black.
Yeah.
Oh, did you meet Jack Black?
I met Jack Black.
Oh,
He
fun.
is adorable. I've got a really funny picture. He would not allow us to have a picture taken stood next to him. We had to adopt a stupid pose behind him, or like just pretend we're walking past or something. And he had to okay it before you could save it or put it out on social media.
Oh my.
I mean, so many musicians I've met as well. Again, there's a lot of people. I mean, recently we had Gary Newman on board. Again, always like Gary Newman's music and that, but he was sat with his wife, his children. He was on tour, and when you see people in that setting, you don't want to go and bother them. You don't want to ask them for an autograph and things like that. Yeah. But I mean, one of the nicest people we ever had was the singer-songwriter Norah Jones from America. And she came on when we were traveling on the UK Remembrance Day last year. And the captain always makes an announcement where they're having the 2-minute silence for the fallen to remember. So she was sat there with her whole entourage and her family. And she came over and she was like, oh, what was that announcement about? And we was, oh, we're just sort of like remembering, you know, all the soldiers that were lost during the world wars, this, that, and the other. And it was sort of like this time we all kind of huddled round, arms around each other. She said, oh, would you mind if me and like our friends join? Absolutely not. So she actually come over and joined with us, and then she had pictures taken with us afterwards. Thanked us for letting us, you know,
letting us
be part of it. Oh, which was amazing. It was honestly really lovely lady.
That's
great.
And when you see a lot of these people on the main screen, you kind of think, yeah. But I mean, I never knew her really a great deal because I mean, it's not the genre of music that I'm into. I mean, you know, she's no Creedence Clearwater Revival or Queen. You know, she's none of that. So for me, I was just like Norah Jones. Then, you know, you meet someone and they make a lovely impact like that, and you think, do you know what? I'm definitely going to listen to your stuff, and I was quite impressed.
Yeah,
with what
absolutely.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
So right, so black powder. Yep. Otter, would you like to tell us about your historic reenactments?
Not really.
All right. Would you like to give us a watered down version?
A watered down version.
Well,
that was version, not virgin.
In the late 80s, I was living in Northern Virginia outside the District of Columbia at that time, and had recently married a nice young lady. And
that was before me.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But
there's a nice young lady bit.
Was watching one of the new weekend news art shows or something like that, and they said this reenactment was going on out in Manassas and the Revolutionary War stuff. Yeah, so I poke her, let's go. Well, I ended up meeting a group of gentlemen that were involved with a unit out of the state of Virginia called the 1st Virginia. Subsequently, later found out that Virginia is the only state in the United States today in the lower 48 that has legitimately still in place a militia.
A legal militia.
A legal militia.
And that's still in place now?
Yeah, it's still in place.
It actually is.
The law's never been changed.
So
anyway, I met these gentlemen and started asking what it took to get involved, and subsequently began to explore other events to acquire necessary accoutrements and clothing and so on, which all had to be period correct.
Yeah.
So, but I attended probably close to 45 or 50 battle skirmishes, reenactments, and various historical revolutionary sites around the United States.
So your period of expertise that you know well runs from when to when?
From the 1750s to the 1800s.
That's amazing.
Well, the French and Indian War period is even more intriguing because the history of the country and then the politics of the Continental Congress and what was going on politically with the government and its relationship with the Indigenous and against the British military and the French and so on.
So in other words, Mika, what he's talking about is he figured out the behind the scenes backstory of all of the stuff behind what you might read in your history book at school, and all the gossip and all the backstabbing and all the who did what right and who did what wrong and who was in league with who and who was a friend with who and who was an enemy of who and who translated for who. And so all of that behind the scenes stuff that they never share in the history books, when you get involved with stuff like this and do your research, you find out all of that backstory.
Yeah, you start reading novels and then you start looking at the bibliographies and reading what they read and reading what they read and reading what they read. And eventually you get back to the truth.
Eventually, you hope you get back to the truth, right?
Yeah,
it is. I mean, Mika, even at this age, he's brave and bold enough to know that not everything that he's taught is true, aren't you?
Yeah.
He's a smart egg, this one, and obviously being brought up, you know, because obviously my dad's a veteran as well.
Mm-hmm.
I have a keen interest in military history. We're life members of a fortress that we have behind our house. We go up a couple of times a year to watch reenactments all the way from the Napoleonic era right the way up. But I mean, I don't know if did I send you any pictures of the castle?
No, you'll have to send some.
We've had a settlement there since beginning of time, and our castle is one of the biggest, grandest castles
That's where you're wrong.
in British history.
Is it haunted?
It hasn't been there all the time. It hasn't been there all the time.
No, there was a settlement there.
Yes.
Yeah, and then it was made into a stone castle in the 10th century.
It was there since...
And then there was a huge siege by the French back in the it was about 1162.
Okay.
And that went on for quite some time, but they managed to penetrate the outer wall. But because of the design of the castle, I mean, it was such a grand design, they only managed to take out the outer bailey wall. They still could not penetrate the inner or the keep. But during the Napoleonic War as well, it had been changed into a gun tower, whereas beforehand it had only been built strictly for archery.
Sure.
What they'd done is they changed the whole layout of the castle to accommodate cannons on top, on the walls going around as well. And it was also used to hold very, very well-to-do French political figures of that time as prisoners. So if you go into like the castle now, because we've got Kelly coming over with us to us next year to stay for a while, and we're taking her up there. And I pointed out to her that when you get into the main keep itself and you go to certain areas, you will see etched into the concrete on the wall these names of these families from the Napoleonic era that were from French aristocracy that were kept there as prisoners. I mean, the level of history we have around here is absolutely phenomenal. Yeah. And it was underneath there that the go-ahead was given for Operation Dynamo in the secret hidden tunnels, which you can now go to. You can stand out on the same balcony where Bertram Ramsay gave his order to go. You can stand out on the same balcony where Churchill would have strolled up and down during that time as well. I'll send you some information afterwards. Yeah. Honestly, you guys would love it.
Huh.
Yeah,
interesting.
If I send it to you through Messenger on Facebook, because I can send you a lot of pictures.
Yes, right. No, that'd be great.
And I'll see if I can find any of the reenactment pictures that we go to as well, because they all use all the old replica guns as well. So then you've got powder, shot, all sorts going in. They set off a cannon on the hour every hour as well while they're there.
Wow.
It's great. It really is. And there was, I think it was maybe last year or the year before they were doing it. We actually had a flyover from a Spitfire and a Hurricane as well.
Oh, wow.
I managed to get some really, really good shots of it as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm digressing. I can sit and talk history all day. I love history. I really do. Right. So, did you cook anything using old techniques, Otter? Also, even?
Yeah, there was a 18th century cooking competition one year at one of the events. It was a regular event. And there was a competition between the various different camps to produce an 18th century meal out of a basket of the sundriest things that you were given, period. You could add condiments and seasoning, but that was the only thing. You had to use the ingredients you were given.
In the basket.
In the basket. So we're looking at this basket and we got this stinking pumpkin. And, but we had eggs and we had flour and we had a few other things, some milk and meat and some carrots and vegetables and a few things. And these 6 women are standing there and they're going, what are we going to do with this? What are we going to do? Well, and they got onions with it. So they were talking about making a beef onion pie, which would be okay. I says, what are we going to do with this pumpkin? I says, well, let me have the eggs and some milk and some of the flour, and I'll make a pumpkin souffle. And they're going, what? So I take the pumpkin and I clean it out and set it on the side of the fire and start roasting it so that I can get the pumpkin meat out of the inside of the pumpkin. In the meantime, I've got my eggs separated and sitting on the side. Sugar, cinnamon, and so on. And I roast the pumpkin. I finally am able to get a nice big pile of fresh pumpkin meat together. With that, I began to mix the eggs and the flour. Little baking powder I added too. And spooned it into a fluted stem glass.
A crystal glass.
Crystal stem glass.
Somebody had crystal stemware. It's camping. Go figure.
Took a 8-quart bean pot.
Cast iron
bean pot.
That you put on a fire.
Put a pile of coals on the side of the fire and set the pot on top of that. Set the fluted glass stemware inside the pot. Turn the lid upside down with the handle sticking down and put coals on top of that and made a Dutch oven out of it.
And baked
it for about 25 minutes. It rose about 2 inches and a quarter out the top of the fluted glass. Lifted it out of there carefully. The ladies were ready to go take the presentation.
To the judges?
To the judges. And the judges had a fist fight over the souffle. And then said in the 18th century, a souffle wouldn't have been possible. I argued with them, proved it could be. And they still gave it to the winners to somebody else.
Seriously. So
and seriously, then they wouldn't let him participate anymore.
They banned me from the cooking competitions.
Did. Because he is, yeah.
Yeah.
True story.
What? It's beggars belief, isn't it? It really is.
There wasn't.
If you're able to do it.
Wasn't any souffle left.
Well, we have a lot of societies in our culture around the world that certain jobs within a household or within a group, it belongs to certain either women or men.
Gender associated
Gender
jobs.
specific. I broke that rule with the Indigenous at the Sundance that we attended and took over and ran that kitchen for a couple of years and put together a $6,000 kitchen for them to cook outdoors.
Wow.
And gave it to them.
Normally, only women would be allowed to cook for the Sundance crew. And when the chief that ran the Sundance found out that Otter was in the kitchen cooking, he came over to investigate. And he said to Otter, I understand that you were trained and have your education in this area. And Otter said, yes, sir, I do. And the chief said, then you may continue to pursue whatever it is that you're doing. Thank you very much. And left. Mm-hmm. And so as long as we got permission from the Sundance chief for him to be in the kitchen, he turned out some fabulous meals for this group of 150 people out in the woods.
No running water and no electricity.
For 2 weeks.
For 14 days.
Of cooking. So it was a trick to haul water in and do this all. But we learned. I learned a lot.
Yep.
I mean, you don't get much more back to basic than that, do you? I mean,
No.
that is as it is. You know, that is genuinely amazing. I mean, kids like.
Well, it's learning. I watched a video several years ago about cooking some meals in the outdoors in Africa. These guys were working on a paving job, paving a highway out across the desert in Africa. And it came down to being close to lunchtime. They burn a scoop shovel out to get it back to the bare metal. One of the guys goes over on the side of the road and starts a fire. They take this scoop shovel, big scoop shovel.
That they've cleaned and washed.
Burn out, cleaned up. The guy's cutting up meat, vegetables, and all that. Throws a little bit of oil in that shovel and starts cooking their lunch.
At the end of the shovel. And then when they're done, they use the same shovel on the construction job.
Just put it right back to use.
Oh,
It's their impromptu cooking surface.
In all these health and safety laws nowadays.
Well, I mean, you know, don't tell me you can't accomplish something. Improvise. You know, get the bubble gum and the baling wire out and figure it out.
Yep.
Absolutely. I mean, once you've eaten out of a muddy mess tin, I mean, anything's a go on that, right?
Right.
Right. Have we got anything from the chat room? Right. I'm going to pass you round to Sarah for the moment for the first part, and then we'll go into the beef if that's cool with you guys.
All right, we can do that.
Okay. So Sarah does the chat, and there she is. Hello,
what
Sarah.
What do we have, Sarah? Hi. Hello again.
Okay. We have from Mark. He has asked, has there ever been a physical meeting between Sandia, or is all the contact through telepathic?
Have we physically met them? Sure.
They've been in the house.
At our house. No, last January I got up in the middle of the night and walked down the hall to get a drink of water in the kitchen and bumped into Sarah, our Sarah, one of the Ponte ladies, standing in the hallway. She was standing hugged up right against the wall. And I actually physically saw her and brushed up against her and felt her and just apologized like she was one of my kids. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you there. We've had them show up in the backyard. We've had strange lights. We've had strange vehicles. We've had strange gravity anomalies. We've also had them in cloaked format where you see that shimmer effect walking down the wall, walk down the hall, and other people who have come to visit our home have seen it at the same time that we have. And so have we ever physically met? Yes, a number of times. We have a lot of missing time. So we're assuming that we got together then somewhere, somehow, or they picked us up. Yeah. Some of it we don't have conscious memory of. A lot of what we do have conscious memory of, yes, have they physically been to our home? Have we met them in person? Yep.
Okay. Kelly has asked, what are the challenges people commonly face the telepathy, and how can we overcome these in current society?
I guess the big thing with telepathy is the fact that the carrier wave, if you want to call it that, to put a name to the energy that carries telepathic messages, an energy wave, it has numerous components to it: physical, emotional, and also visual, primarily. So you could be getting pinched behind the knee by something that's telling you something about somebody's knee, maybe, or a question about a knee or whatever, as to opposed to most of my interactions telepathically have been visual and auditory. But you have to become very emotionally honest with yourself. You've got to sit down and take a look at the trash can of stuff you have buried inside of you that you're not willing to face. You have to face your fears. You have to overcome them. Then you can practice telepathy well, very well.
That's one of them. I'd say the other one for a lot of beginners is the stigma that is associated in English-speaking cultures, for sure, about, quote, hearing voices in your head, unquote. All right. So when you see or perceive that kind of telepathic message for the first time out of the blue, like when Sandia first contacted us, it was a clear male voice in my head that I did not expect, and surprised and startled me. And I think the only reason I didn't panic and go, I must be schizophrenic, for hearing voices, is the paranormal experience that I had had thus far. And then, of course, checking with Otter and understanding that he had been hearing Sandia and their crew ever since he moved into our home back in 2009.
Yeah.
That made a difference. But the stigma that a lot of first-time students struggle with is the idea of, one, acknowledging that they're actually hearing somebody else's voice in their head and accepting it as that, not as I must be going nuts.
Yep.
And then two, the other difficult thing that a lot of beginning students deal with is, who do I share this with? I don't feel like I can talk about this with just anybody. It's the people are going to think I'm crazy stigma. All right. And so those things are the biggest obstacles that we see. Then the third one would be the commonality of people hearing other voices like their own head thought voice, and not yet having distinguished different voices and being able to identify who they are as different from themselves. And that's a frustration, that's a learning curve for a lot of folks. Then the other thing is, a lot of folks are so afraid of being abducted, so afraid of missing time, so afraid of, if I start telepathy and I let somebody in my head, they're going to know everything about me and they might be able to control me. I don't think I want that. Okay. And so the risk that a lot of our beginning students know going into it that risk that they take is the idea that if I'm going to have telepathic contact with a star nation that is stronger than me, who's been doing this a lot longer than I have, with a great deal more experience exploring this galaxy, if I let them in my head, can I trust what they will do to me? And so that trust factor of, are they really a good people or are they really not a good people? I don't know enough about them, is an inhibiting factor for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And so there's a variety of fears, whether it's fear of your own emotions, fear of being considered crazy by other members of society or your friends or your family, or other fears of the actual star nation and their abilities. That's a lot of different kinds of fears to deal with in approaching this whole concept. And we understand that.
Well, that's one of the reasons we wrote the telepathy primer
with Teeny, right? And then followed it up with the Inviting ET book, so that we could address a lot of these common issues. Teeny wanted to help people put aside their fears. And then once people started practicing their telepathy and following the instructions in the Telepathy 101 primer, we got swamped. We got inundated by calls and texts and people stopping at the door and all kinds of things. And so we had more common questions that just about everybody had. And so we talked to Tilcom and Teeny and said, listen, we need some help. We need additional information to give these folks so that they know a little bit more about what to expect with all of this. So that, again, it helps them put down their fears to consider whether or not they feel as if they're ready to approach CE5 contact. So did that answer your question? Did we cover it? That's a long roundabout answer.
It is a long answer, but it's a lot. It's quite an in-depth question. So
Yeah,
be a couple
it's
of
not an
one
easy question, but it was a good
No.
one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pete has asked, how and when did you meet each other?
It was 2012. It was in the middle of the state of Iowa, in the very middle part of the United States, about 3-4 hours east of the Mississippi River, but south of Minneapolis, St. Paul area, and west of Chicago, if people
West
know
of the
those cities
Mississippi.
in the United States. It was a small, privately owned oak acreage, and I had been participating with a local Teoshpe, and a Teoshpe is the Lakota word for a group of people who gather together to pray together. So it's kind of like a congregation, okay? Teoshpe is people who support one another spiritually. So the local Teoshpe had brought down for several years, by that point in time, some traditional Lakota Native American Sundance ceremony chiefs to hold a traditional sacred ceremony in central Iowa. I had been in with that group since the Sundance had begun on that property and had been supporting and making friends with those people from the Lakota Nation. And then Otter happened to still live in New Mexico at the same time and had always wanted to participate and learn about a Sundance. And so he was still living 1,200 miles away in New Mexico at the time. And so he ended up coming to Iowa. And the Sundance was held 20 minutes from where I resided. So I would just drive back and forth from home versus I could camp there and had a couple of years. But we met because I was supposed to run the kitchen to cook for all of these people, and had kind of been volunteered by the previous cook, not having any idea what I was going to do, and found out that he was a retired French chef, and kind of roped him into helping. And that then the rest is history. I recognized that I knew him within less than 3 hours of meeting him. By the time I'd known him 3 days, I knew that we were going to be together. I just didn't tell him for a little while.
You let him find out for himself.
Yes.
Good girl.
That's normally how it goes, isn't it, ladies?
It is.
We pick up on it first.
Reel you in.
Absolutely. This one had me on the dance floor, but we'll leave that one for another day.
That's another story.
Yeah, dance floor, kitchen, they both work.
I don't know. At least if you meet me in the kitchen, no, we'll leave that one. That's very
better leave that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff has asked. No, sorry, Mark. He's actually asked the energy that you've got in the chair behind you, Otter. Is it a good energy or a bad energy?
The cowboy.
Oh, the cowboy?
Yeah, the energy, the individual that comes and goes.
He's kind of the house guard.
Kind of. No, he's positive. He's not negative. Well, we don't have negative stuff that comes under our property very often.
If riffraff tried to come in, then he has a tendency to flip his slicker back and let the 6-gun show. You know, he just he ain't coming in here.
We have a couple of resident ghosts that when we leave, we ask them if they would please keep watch over the property. And then if something goes wrong, to come find us and let us know. And they do.
Can I ask a couple of questions about the cowboy?
Sure.
Do you have any history on him? Do you have like a name? Did he reside in that area? Is he a native to?
I went through the $54,000 questions with him several years ago, and got very small smatterings of information. He's pretty quiet and reluctant to converse. He's pretty much kind of settled into who and what he is and where he is and what he's doing. That he's not looking for change. He's not looking to exit and actually cross over. So I just let him stay.
So do we officially know a name or a history? No, not much.
Not much.
Last year we were playing around and asking him his name and came up with mix something, and I'm trying to remember
So
what it was that he told us. But
so
it
he's
sounded
wandering
like
now
a
as he
Scottish.
was in life.
What's that?
So he's wandering now, and he's very, very comfortable. So would that have possibly be why he's wandering now? Because obviously the cowboys back when were wanderers, weren't they? They go from place to place and be very, you know, and there wasn't like a great deal of, you know,
Well, and
relationship up between them, was there?
Yeah.
truth
Unless
be
it was they were in
told,
a gang or-
the Albuquerque area really hasn't changed a whole heck of a lot from the Wild West if you consider that they have substituted cars for horses.
Yeah.
That's about it. That's about the extent of the difference. The technology maybe, but the attitude, the independence,
It can still be the Wild
lawlessness,
West.
the thievery, the gunslingings, the murders, all of that kind of stuff that went on in the 1850s to 1890s
Well, you
here in New Mexico still goes on.
New Mexico was first, I guess, discovered, but explored was by the Spanish in the 1500s, late 1400s, early 1500s. And so Europeans were here and were subsequently stayed here, other than a lot of the Franciscan monks that got their heads cut off because they were jackasses. Excuse my French, but
no, you're right.
No, well, the way they treated people, they're lucky they weren't murdered the first month.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a very diverse community. Multiple languages that are common between the Indian dialects, or the Pueblo dialects, and the Spanish, which are kind of commingled, but still different.
Yeah, you will hear on our television commercials in Navajo. You will hear commercials in English. You will hear some in smatterings of Spanish.
Subtitled.
Or subtitled, that's right. Yeah. And so because of the multiple languages in this area, we've learned quite a bit.
Yep.
So anyway, but we digress.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, folks. Sorry.
Okay, Jeff has actually asked, what do the trainees do with you?
Ask questions.
Good Lord.
Try things. Try out their humor for the first time in North America. Oh my God.
Most of the time when they come in here is because I have such an array of artifacts scattered through the house. It's an educational trip for them and an opportunity to interact with the Earth humans. Some of their first contact for them ever.
We give them a chance to make their first beginning mission mistakes here, because we know that there are some green trainees who really have never spent much time in a home of somebody from Earth. And of course, depending on the culture, homes are different in North America, South America, Africa, Australia, Europe. And so we give them a taste of average, middle class, North American home of people who don't mind answering their first time questions. We've had them knock over stuff. We've had them misplace stuff and move stuff. We've had them return stuff at weird times. And we've had things borrowed.
Yeah.
They sometimes will show up when Otter's cooking in the kitchen because they like to watch the food preparation. We invite them over, and when we watch television shows that are the talent kind of shows, because we know that they enjoy the diverse array of talents. And so we always, when we watch TV, kibitz with one another. And so if they show up, we just kibitz with them. And if they have questions, we just answer them. But we just provide an opportunity for the unusual questions that maybe these trainees don't want to ask their supervisors. And so we just are trying to be unafraid people that are willing to say, yeah, come on over, ask whatever it is that you need to ask. We'll help you if we can. So.
Okay. What's significant are the lunar cycles for drawing sketches of the Ponte, releasing the Prima as well?
Say that again.
What's significant are the lunar cycles for drawing sketches of the Ponte?
The lunar cycles. Well, okay, just recently, within the last 2 weeks, they've been getting me up at 2 o'clock in the morning to sketch in my studio in the dark. I am not kidding, because they recognize that most Earth humans who see them in a dark context, a dark room, a dark house, a dark outdoors, or wherever it is that they happen to have a CE5 and meet in person, that frequently it's in darkness. And so they've asked me to do some of the sketching by moonlight, specifically to get the highlights and shadows and contrast right in the things that I'm doing in black and white and charcoal. But more than the moon cycles, we find that the equinoxes, solstices, and cross quarters seem to be more important to them in their timing of their announcements and what it is that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why? We can't tell you, but we do know and have seen since 2013, when Tilcom first introduced himself to us, that they wait and do things on those equinoxes, solstices, and cross quarters for reasons we don't completely understand, but it seems to be a timekeeping method that all the star nations employ. So we just kind of go with the flow and go, okay, why not? Let's roll with this, and what can we do to help you?
Okay.
Right. Is that all?
No, there's one more. What have the Ponte why have the Ponte chose to do this? Have they been asked by higher beings to do so?
I think, I know that Tilcom told me that he trained on Pontel for almost 20 some years before he came to Earth, specifically knowing that Earth was having its official first contact upcoming in 3 years. Okay, so he came knowing that assignment. What I don't think he realized, and what I don't think that they planned on, honestly, was the Twitter account being the grand experiment, so to speak, of reaching the average everyday person across country borders, across boundaries, across languages, across belief systems, and being able to interact and instruct with instruction in telepathy, Archaea planetography, CE5 contact, because I don't think that was part of the plan originally. But the fact that it's worked and worked in a positive manner, other star nations now are picking up on the concept of we could share information about our nation, our people, this same way. And they've come to Commander Tilcom and asked him about it and inquired. So I think that they all are here knowing that official first contact for this planet is coming. They are also here knowing that the climate changes that our world is about to go through are going to leave a mell of a hess. Okay. So part of this, I think, was very known. These star nations came knowing that they were going to need to provide assistance and introduce themselves. But part of this was not known in that I don't think Tilcom expected radar would become so popular. I don't think Tilcom expected that a whole bunch of people, guys specifically all over the planet, were going to have the hots for Drudy. And so it was one of those, there are some unexpected parts of all of this that have been as fascinating to the Ponte as they have been to us.
Oh, yeah.
Does that help?
It certainly does.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to hand you back to the boys now.
All right.
Hello again.
Hello.
Hello.
Right, we've got a couple of questions from this young man over here.
Hello.
Okay.
My name's Mika. Is Chewie linked with basically like Bigfoot?
Right.
Are the Ponti linked with Bigfoot?
Sasquatch.
Yes.
Was there a plan, or was there anything from the leaders of the Sasquatch clans with regards to making Chewbacca from Star Wars a more accessible fact that it's a real thing? Because I know, because obviously, as you know, we're both big Star Wars fans, and there were certain influences taken.
Yes, we assume so, Mika. We assume that the idea of including Chewbacca as a main character in the first Star Wars, as an intelligent being who doesn't speak in English, but who obviously communicates everything he needs to. Now, I don't remember in all the Star Wars movies if they hint at Chewbacca being telepathic or not. Do they?
No, but there is that connection between him and Han Solo. So
That's
I
what
don't know.
I wondered.
But
yes.
if you've seen the new Star Wars movie, the Solo story.
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
It's the story of Han Solo, how he meets Chewie, and how the rebellion stuff. It is an amazing film. Now, to any of our guys that are watching that haven't seen it, there is a spoiler coming up, so you've got time to block your ears in 3, 2, 1. You actually find out in Star Wars that Han Solo actually speaks Wookiee.
Oh, fun. Cool. I love that.
But if you look at certain bits and pieces throughout the films, there are certain things where there'll be a certain look from Chewbacca and people instinctively know what he's looking, how he, and that type of thing. We wasn't too sure because George Lucas always said that Chewbacca was based on his dog. Now, unless his dog is like a 7-8 foot biped, I can't exactly see how that works. And as I say, there's certain bits about Star Wars which seem a little bit too convenient when you look at certain characters and relate them to certain other star nations that are represented in people's artwork, or they've been, seen physically and stuff like that. So that was Mika's one, whether or not there was a crossover there to make Bigfoot, Sasquatch, if you prefer, more sort of like acceptable to the general public.
And seen as a star nation unto themselves. Right. Which is also part of what our researcher friends have been talking to us about and what the Sasquatch are telling us themselves.
Yep.
So,
right. Next question.
Good question. What's the next one?
Let me find it. Why did Tilcom come to you and say his name very fast?
Well, all right. So we nicknamed the voice that originally contacted us from the mountain, the man's voice, because it came from a location inside of the Sandia Mountain, and because the word Sandia sounded like Sandy, like somebody's name to me, and because I didn't remember it really meant watermelon at the time, I nicknamed the voice Sandia. And do you know what he said to me, Mika? As soon as I nicknamed the voice from the mountain Sandia.
Oh, yes.
He said,
oh, great. You're calling me a watermelon. That's brilliant.
Watermelon head. That'll work. That's exactly what he did. So when I finally decided that we'd talked like neighbors who were friendly across the backyard fence long enough, I finally got brave. And one day I just outright asked him and said, Sandia, what's your real name and where are you from? And he answered immediately. And I think he answered quickly because it was the normal speed of sending information that he usually did with his friends and his coworkers. So when I heard his name in my head, it was so fast and it was such an unusual sounding word that I wasn't sure if I heard it right or if he just hiccuped. So I said, could you say that slower? He said, Tilkum. And it was still fast to my ears. And it took me 4 times asking him to say it slower before he finally slowed down to Tilkum. And I said, Tilkum. He said, close enough. So that's how it really happened. That was November of 2013.
Mm-hmm. So this is kind of a 2-part question.
Okay.
When did you meet Radar?
The end of January, beginning of February of 15.
What's that?
When did we meet Radar? It was a year and a half after we started talking to Teal'c.
It was about January, February, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So early 2015, very end of January, very beginning of February.
Drudy and him.
Both he and Drudy at the same time.
Oh.
So were they like a new intake?
They had both been there since 1994. No. Teal'c arrived in 94.
Drudy
and they brought them a little bit later, but I'd have to go back into the records.
94.
Yeah.
94.
So somewhere between 94 and 97, Drudy and Radar both arrived. I'd have to go back and look at the dates that I have written down because I don't hold those in my head. But Teal'c pulled Radar out of school because even among the Ponti, Radar was an exceptional young man. So it would be like taking somebody out of school in 3rd or 4th grade and plopping them into a mission that mostly college students and adults would go on. It was very unusual because you have to remember their lifespans are much longer than ours. And Radar was born in our year 1965. So he would have been the proverbial adolescent teenager equivalent when Teal'c yanked him out of school and brought him here.
Same as me in 1994 then.
Yes, you're right, exactly.
That was a good time to be around Radar. Brilliant time.
That's right.
And hang on. And how did he get into playing guitar?
Oh my goodness. All right. Mm-hmm. Well, how did Radar get into playing guitar?
That's when he went up to Kevin Estrela's the first time.
Right. Well, all right. So
Kevin was having a jam session.
The sequence was this. First of all, Radar had been assigned by Teal'c to study Earth media in reference to extraterrestrials and UFOs and things along that official first contact line. Radar was already on Twitter and was already being prepped by Drudy, I believe, at that point in time, because Drudy had told Radar, you know that Earth girls like guys who can dance, right? I mean, that was a serious discussion between the two of these guys. So Radar goes, really? And he'd been hearing Earth music because of his studies in the media stuff and what had identified various Earth things. And so he began to study Earth media in regards to dancing and things along that line. And then the music overlapped with that because the Beatles and Queen and some of these other Earth music genres, they liked the sound of. Okay. Fast forward to there was a musician on Twitter by the name of Kevin Estrella. Kevin lives in the Toronto, Canada area and is a guitar teacher and very classically trained. All right. So one day, Radar said to Kevin, geez, it'd be great to learn to play Earth guitar, but I've only got 4 fingers.
And he's left-handed.
So, yeah. And so he was concerned about learning the fretwork and all of that and not quite sure how to start. So Kevin took some time off as a teacher of guitar and figured out if you had a 4-fingered student, how would you teach them to do the fretwork on the neck of the guitar? All right. He figured it out, contacted Radar on Twitter, said, Radar, I've got it. Come on over for your first lesson. And that started their interaction and friendship. And now Kevin has regular CE5s and regular visitors at his home in the Toronto area, just like we do. And has gotten to know PETA, has gotten to know Grayson, has gotten to know Radar, has gotten a following with some of the trainees who come up and listen to him play his guitar and practice because they've been invited by him. And so when they say, we listen for your invitations, they really mean it. They like being invited to participate in things, regular everyday stuff. Doesn't have to be anything special or fancy. It can be, come on over and watch cartoons with me. That's okay.
And Kevin
that
is
help
a very
answer your question?
guitarist as well, isn't he?
Kevin is a very exceptionally good guitarist.
Star Jumper is one of my favourite songs of his, because I was actually talking with Kevin this morning.
Oh, you were? Oh, he's marvelous.
Yeah, we've got him coming on as a guest soon.
Oh, you'll have a very good time.
Absolutely, because obviously, because he's part of the Sandia team, associate with the team as well.
He is. He is.
I want to kind of build on where we are as well, because obviously being fans with you guys as well, anyone else that's associated with you, we want to hear their stories as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then if they come visit you, we'd love to hear, that they have and what they've done. We love hearing people's first time stories, and we're actually going to be looking for stories to put in the next updated version of Telepathy, the Ponte, OFC 2019, so that we'll have more videos and more photographs of evidence and more people's stories from around the world, and perhaps by then more Star Nations. So stay tuned.
You've got a story from Sarah, you've got one from Mika, and I don't know, did you watch the video that I sent you through Twitter?
I did, but Otter did not, so you may need to tell him the story.
Yeah, well, Sam, the video's there on your Twitter feed anyway. It was just me going down to work one morning, and I captured something in the sky, and I followed it for about 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. And as I managed to get...
Okay, I couldn't remember if I did or not.
Yeah. And then there was a power-up. But that was like the second one within a few weeks of being in contact with you folks.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get this running. I mean, I'd only, up until nearly 40 years old, I'd only ever seen one thing. And then after speaking with you folks, there was two. And both times I phoned Sarah, I managed to video call her for the first one and show her.
Good.
Again, another power up. And then, obviously, the actual video that I took on the way to work, I got to work, I showed all my workmates, and they were like, there's no way that is a satellite. From the way that it's traveled to there, and then to power up as well.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. Wonderful. And being right there on the edge of the coastline, you're in a perfect position to see what's going on over the water.
Absolutely.
I'm really glad that you caught that. One of the things that I would suggest to everyone there, honestly, is to contact the Ponte crew and say, tell you what, next time you come, would you give me about 10 minutes warning before you show up? Ping me. And that way I'll know to get ready. And if I've got a chance to get my camera out, is that okay, by the way? Can I film you? And so I would ask them to alert you ahead of time by at least 10 minutes so that you've got an opportunity to grab whatever it is you want to grab.
I've been tracking it for like 10 minutes. And
there you go.
As you saw from the video itself, it wasn't one of those horribly distorted videos or anything like that. It was a proper... power up, you can see everything. So, and obviously the height that it was at, there's no way it would have been a satellite or anything like that because it was too low.
That's right.
So,
for sure.
Right, you got one more question in your chat?
Yes, that one's already solved. So, do the Sandia like ice cream?
Do they like ice cream?
Think so.
As far as I know, so. There are not very many things that we've talked about them with that they don't like. But sweets are one thing that they certainly have expressed an interest in. Although somebody over there, and I suspect it was PETA, that said, with a brain our size, can you imagine the brain freeze?
Oh.
Honest to God, he just said that. So the brain freeze factor still exists among the Ponti. Has to do with the upper part of your palate, apparently.
Wow, that's
So,
amazing.
yeah. So brain
That's a whole
freeze.
lot of pain.
Yeah. Don't get Ponti brain freeze. Not a good thing.
Brilliant. Is that you all done then, sweetheart?
That's all
Yeah.
me done.
Right, okay, so for the people that don't really know the crew, that maybe are just joining us for the first time, I mean, we're well established with who they are, but if I give you the name, can you give me maybe a personality trait of that person?
Easy.
Because people can say whatever, but they are people. They are humans. They're just not from Earth, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they are
Yeah.
people.
Sure.
Right. So personality trait for Tilcum.
Quiet, wise, benevolent. I mean, very easy to get along with. Very right-minded.
Yeah.
Spiritual.
Um,
Good teacher. What else would you say about Tilcum?
he's cautious.
Yes, he hesitates before speaking and is thoughtful with his word choice. So I seldom, while I might hear Radar or Grayson or Depp or one of the Ponti make an offhand comment, like an aside comment, I seldom hear Tilcum do that. I seldom hear him say negative word one about anyone.
Reserved.
Very reserved.
Yeah.
Very proper.
As the leader of the group, it's probably in his best interest to be as well as
Probably.
an example to the young'uns.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one, Grayson, because we don't hear a great deal about Grayson.
That's why they call him Gray Spear.
Yeah, Gray Spear, loves Shakespeare. Instigator
Fascination.
who stands in the background, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, watching everybody, watching everything, plotting and planning when he can make his mark or his move or say something.
Conspirator.
He gets other people to do his dirty work for him, namely the trainees. Sometimes Pitas get still duped. But for the most part, Grayson plants ideas in the heads of the other Ponti. So
Kind of
that's
a manipulator.
just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Okay. So, Thera.
Wow. Gentle,
Another one of the names
aquatic.
you don't hear a great deal about.
Thera speaks and understands tonal languages. A tonal language would be like if you had to go speak with a dolphin or a whale. Okay.
Or a Wookiee.
Or a Wookiee, right? Right. or some of the avian species.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but Thera is an aquatic expert and understands and is partially came to do some translation work in the deep oceans with some of the whale nations and some of the other aquatic nations. And so translator, historian of total languages, but personality-wise, fairly quiet, has a little bit of a giggle.
Perky.
Can be once you get her talking.
Yeah.
But you got to get her talking.
No, that's cool. Okay, so Depp.
Yep. Oh, Jesus.
Mr. Finger.
Mm.
Analyst. Points things out to people.
Very left brain.
Very acute in details. Very logical thinking. Very engineer. Very mathematical. Very science oriented. Sees patterns in things well into the past and well into the future and correlates data very easily, very fast. So I would have to say analyst, left brain more than anything else, but with this wicked practical joker side to him. This man would plan out a practical joke if it took months to execute it. Long, calculated, detailed thinker everything would have to be in place.
We like
that
that.
step.
We like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Tinny. Or Teeny.
Teeny or teeny. Oh,
Matronly.
yes, grandmotherly, matronly, but with a sharp tongue and a sharp wit. Punny in her own way. Understands that teaching often gets set with humor better than any other thing. If you make learning fun and a hoot, people will learn things faster and easier than when you don't. But as a person, Teeny's thing when she is off duty, she goes spelunking. She's a cave gal. She goes exploring the deepest caverns. She said this planet has marvelous caves. And she's just all kinds of excited to get off of work and go scramble through the mud. That's her. But, she likes being some of the first people to see some of these underground caverns for the first time in ages and ages. And so for her, it's kind of like Indiana Jones sort of work. It's a thrill for her to go caving on another planet.
We like that.
Yeah.
Right. Go on then.
We've got Sarah up next.
Sarah is another quiet one. Sarah's background. Sarah is what we call a Zetas nation merged species, meaning that there are some star nations that find it very acceptable to take species from this planet, species from this planet, join the two together, have a blend that gets along with everybody. That's how many old European nations solved conflicts by marrying off, the king of this country to the princess of that country, and then they got along as nations. Teeny's background and her family have a history of helping merge cultures for different star nation cultures together and finding the commonalities. And so her expertise is historian for different planets' official first contacts. In other words, if it's been done on 200 worlds before, then she knows about it and advises Tilcum as to have any other star nations on any other worlds anywhere ever run into this kind of a problem, and this is how we solve it.
Sorry,
something going on, isn't there?
Yeah.
You got a visitor?
It sounded like, I don't know, what would you explain it?
A little tink. Look,
Yeah,
if we show
the window.
Did you get a knock on the window?
We do have a window. Over there,
yeah.
One of our blinds have just shaken, and I've looked.
Oh, so you got a visitor?
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Somebody's paying attention.
And then there's like a little shadow.
Right. Okay. So what I'd encourage you to do, you know how your side vision, your peripheral vision, you can stare straight ahead, but if you really think about it, you can pay more attention to what's going on in the sides of your vision while you're staring straight ahead. All right. So what I want you to do, yes, stare straight ahead and use your peripheral side vision to look at the window without turning your head, Mika. And then what you're looking for is that shimmery effect shadow movement that you're catching out of your peripheral vision. It can be like a fog movement, but most of the time we see it like hot air shimmering off a pavement kind of thing. Or if you've seen any of the Alien Predator movies and they portray the invisible predator, they have this little shimmer and you see the movement rather than if they stay still, you don't so much. You're looking for indications of movement outside of your peripheral vision. Or there's another option. If you have a mirror and you set a mirror up where you can see the mirror and have the window area where you noticed your movement activity in your house. If you can set it up and see that in the mirror instead of looking at it directly, now you've got an image bounced to you. right? And when you do that, you're more likely, because of the angle of reflection, to catch that out of phase movement on their part. So we find that reflections in the windows, reflections in the sliding glass door, reflections in a mirror, you will often catch that movement within your home in reflection instead of looking straight at it.
Was that just me? But it definitely did move.
No, there was
definitely.
You have two other witnesses sitting right there. I don't think you have to worry about anything.
No, that was a real thing. Did you hear it? Oh, because it was quite loud.
We heard something.
Heard it like a.
We'd have to go back and replay it.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And then the other thing is watch for electronic anomalies in your room there or in the house.
We have TV.
Right. Are you good to carry on, or do you want me to carry on?
Yeah, you can carry on.
I'm going to carry on. All right, sweetie. Right, so next one up is our friend Radar.
How would you describe Radar's personality?
Loud.
Naughty teenager, I think.
That's it.
Naughty teenager.
That's what
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Radar. Oh, Jesus.
Adolescent, yeah, just like a teenager, likes to go fast. Incorrigible. Yeah. Incorrigible meaning if
don't do this, that's what he does.
Yeah. Don't tell him not to do something because he'll want to try it. Always likes to push the edge of the boundaries of whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's the edge of the speed boundary, if it's the edge of what the vehicle is capable of doing, if it's the edge of a rule that Tilcom has dictated. Did I tell you about Radar and the cameras that people put in their cars and their vehicles these days?
No.
Okay, so dash cams, all right? When the signed agreement came out that the Ponte couldn't provide any video evidence, any photographic evidence, that they had to avoid all of that at all costs. Both Grayson and Radar came to Tilcom and said, listen, they've got these things called dash cams now, and you don't know which cars have them and which don't, and they're moving all over all the doggone time. How can we avoid all of those all the time? They keep changing location. This is unreasonable. Okay? And that's the argument that Grayson and Radar took to Tilcom, and Tilcom had to think about it for a while. And he came back and he said, I agree. We cannot expect you to avoid all dash cams 100% of the time. That doesn't mean that you get to fly 10 feet over the major highway at rush hour. However, we understand that if you are making a reasonable effort, that you may appear on someone's dash cam. And so then, of course, it's Grayson and Radar, and they wanted to push the edge of what the rules were. And we quietly one day heard them say to one another that they wanted to photobomb some events. Do you know what a photobomb is, Mika? When somebody takes a picture, let's say if there's a fancy occasion like somebody's wedding and the photographer has been paid to take a picture of the bride and the groom doing their first kiss, and somebody walks up behind the back of them and goes like this. All right, and sticks their face in the picture on purpose when they're not supposed to. That's a photobomb.
Like you do.
Well, okay, our ET friends are talking about photobombing broadcasts. And they're starting to talk about photobombing paranormal broadcasts first. Now, they were talking about television. I don't know about this kind of stuff. They might. I'm not going to say that it's out of the realm of possibility at all. So if you're watching a paranormal show on television and suddenly there's an image of one of our Ponte friends that goes past the screen and everybody goes, that was a ghost. And you go, that was a Ponte. Don't be surprised. But it's the same kind of thing. About half about 50% of the people that we've done shows like this with, within the next 10 days get visited. About half of the radio show hosts right now.
At least.
Yep. And you guys already have activity going on in your house.
Yeah, this
should be
is
an
like-
interesting weekend for them. What you think?
This is like number 4 for us now.
I've had a very big experience actually in the past.
I wanted to ask you about that. Can you tell us that story?
I can tell you as many times and it wouldn't scare me at all. I was asleep, totally knocked out, nothing. And then I saw this weird vision just come in my head. You know, just dreaming about my own stuff. La la la. And just this weird vision.
Right in the middle of nothing. Right.
Head.
Didn't make
And then
sense.
there's this radar and Peter in my bedroom. Dancing, music, everything like that. And then this flash of beam, I could see the flashing beam in my eye.
Okay.
And then the vision just went.
And
I
then
woke
it's just
up
gone.
and
Yeah.
it was 12:48. I normally never wake up at that time.
Right.
That's if I've had a bad dream or a very weird one.
Right.
And I'm just like, hang on. Didn't I go to bed at 8?
Wow.
And I was just like, what?
But you also need to explain as well that the music is on all the way through the night in your bedroom. You won't go to sleep unless you have music.
And it was only angels and airwaves, but then it just changed. I was just like, what the hell is going on?
Okay, so let me see if I've got this straight. You have music on in your bedroom all night long. Radar shows up and decides he likes the music and
Peter.
Practices his dance moves in your room.
Yeah.
With Peter.
With Peter.
On my bed.
That's possible.
On your bed?
Yes.
He tried that once with our webmaster, Jason.
Yeah.
Peter, Jason also has Radar and Peter show up at his home in Florida. And one night he was on the edge of sleep and kind of in that twilight sleep where he was aware of sounds going on in his room, but he still had his eyes closed for a while. He cracks an eye open and he sees Peter standing in the partially open closet door. And Peter's there grinning at him and waving. And Jason is just awake enough that he realizes that he can sit up in bed and get out of any kind of a mind control telepathy situation that Peter's trying to put on him. And so he sits up in bed, goes, "Hey, Peter," and Peter freaks. Suddenly, Peter, on his mission at Jason's house, has lost his ability to control the situation telepathically and panics and leaves the closet at a dead run, heading for Jason, jumps on his bed and tries to physically hold him down while he tries to figure out, what the heck do I do next?
Did you just hear that again?
I didn't hear that.
I just heard nothing.
I heard it. I heard it.
The gong.
Yeah, no, the tick. Yep, I heard it. It was to your right side.
I'm freaking mortified.
Don't be mortified. You invited him. Don't be mortified. Set out some candy.
Hello?
Right.
Okay. And here's something that you need to know. Just because they don't speak with vocal cords, that doesn't mean that they don't have them. And second, how many mouth sounds can you make that don't involve your vocal cords? Let me give you a for instance. That's a mouth sound, right? That's another mouth sound, right? Don't involve vocal cords. The Ponte can make any mouth sound that you can make, and then some. Can they whistle? Yes, they can.
Yeah.
Can they go? Yes.
Right, so
I had
one of the
Go ahead.
like Radar or Peter here. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I know that Peter was over here earlier, but I don't think Radar's over there now. So Peter's here, which means that he cannot be there too.
Full moon tonight,
So
right?
maybe Radar.
I don't know. I don't think so. When's the next full moon?
not sure on that one, Sue.
No,
I
I'll
know
have to look it
we've
up.
only just had one because it was Mika's
Yeah.
birthday.
That's right. That's right. It was. So
Yeah.
we have to be on the
We
wing.
didn't have a
I've got to
stomping.
keep,
Right.
I've got to keep
Right,
an
so-
ear out.
Our next crew member and personality is Jerusi.
Gracious. Absolutely
Who?
great. Drudy.
Oh, Trudy.
Drudy puts everyone at ease. She makes friends so easily and so openly, and she's so kind and she's so friendly, and she can take the tiredest, weariest traveler and brighten their day. And so Drudy just is the person that sets people at ease the minute they look at her or talk to her.
That's cute.
Yeah,
That's
nice gal. Good girlfriend.
Right. Last, Peter.
Impish.
Boy, yeah.
Impish. Quiet, gender neutral. Doesn't come across as real masculine, but also doesn't come across as real feminine. But more of a wants to learn, desperate to do things the right way, friendly, loves to smile, easy, doesn't want to make anybody ever upset. So I guess Peter would be the Libra of the astrological zodiac of the Bonte kind of thing.
That's close.
But easy going, just real easy going, easy to make friends.
Oh, that's cool. Right, so for those that don't know, can we do the why we call them Zetas?
Sure. When I asked Sandia what his real name was and where home was, his response was immediate and detailed. And he said home is the fifth planet orbiting the further of the two stars of the binary solar systems that make up the star of Zeta Reticuli 2 in the constellation of Reticulum that you'll see in the southern hemisphere.
Wow.
And so he was very specific about our planet is just about 40 light years from here, and that it was not the only planet in their solar system that was habitable. So all of those things came immediately.
So why did our Zeta friends choose the Sandia Mountain? I mean, out of all the places on Earth.
Well, all right. The ancient tunnel system that ran north-south up the east side of the Rocky Mountain chain was already in existence from the previous age of man. And they simply took the old tunnel system and retrofitted it and added some modernization and a few more branches and just upscaled it, upcycled it, I guess.
It was easy for them to convert the atmosphere.
It was easy for them to create contained atmosphere situations. So the tunnel system existed. They just decided to utilize it, and why it was chosen as one of the 4 land-based Ponte-managed information stations was because the original name that they call the Sandia Mountain translates to the word accord, A-C-C-O-R-D, as in agreement among many nations. So to them, it's Accord Mountain, the mountain where star nations came together in the past and agreed to end an old conflict. So I suspect that was one of the other reasons.
Right, okay. Now, we know, obviously, from other interviews that there are other bases. Would you mind quickly tapping on whereabouts they are located for us?
We don't know all of the locations of the land bases. I know that I have looked for the archaeoplanetography images of the water, the aquatic bases under the oceans. I know that we have one between Reunion Island and or around Reunion Island, very close. Yeah, in the Indian Ocean, very close to the eastern side of the continent of Africa, north of Madagascar. I know that there is one between or around the New Zealand, Australia area. I know that there is one far north in the North Sea, about as far north in the North Sea as you can go. And there should be a magnetic anomaly signature in the ocean up that way. And then there's a fourth one.
North Pacific.
No, we've got Indian Ocean.
Australia.
Oh no, the one down off of the tip of South America, but by Antarctica.
That's the one that you were saying.
No, that was a different one. Anyway, there are a number of aquatic stations, and they have not, and I suspect purposely, identified the locations of the land-based Conti-managed information stations. But I'm guessing that they probably are marked with the archaeoplanetography images. Most everything else is.
Yeah.
So
that stuff is so interesting. I mean, obviously we've been going for quite some time now, and I've hardly touched the surface that I really wanted. So, I mean, I'd love to do a part 2 with you guys, and also get into because I mean, everything that I've got here that most people want to know is about our Zeta friends, but I really want to touch on another point some other time with you and Otter, if that's okay, to do with the archaeoplanetography and also Sasquatch as well.
Sure. The archaeoplanetography is an unusual subject that lends itself toward illustration and video. And so having a video format to be able to show people what we're talking about is much better than just a purely auditory radio format where all they can do is hear us describe, well, there are these images on the landscape. And people don't realize how complex they are and how detailed they are until they start seeing them and go, wait, what?
Yeah, I mean, those ones that you've done of my local area, my county at home, they were amazing. And the amount of people that commented on them as well. I mean, I would never, even as a hiker myself, I mean, I'm only ever used to kind of seeing, you know, the man-made kind of old landscapes and old bits and pieces, you know, so to see it from that kind of view, that was amazing.
Yeah, when you know that these images, and here's the really unusual part that really set it home for us. We spoke with our friend Clifford Mahudi from Zuni, and Clifford told us a piece that we didn't know. And the minute that he saw the archaeoplanetography images, his jaw dropped, but we didn't know why. And it wasn't until a couple of years later that he asked us to do an analysis with the archaeoplanetography images that we saw in the desert Southwest. And we didn't know why he asked, but we knew that there was some kind of a reason. Come to find out later, this man who was one of a handful, literally, probably less than 12 people on the planet who still speaks ancient Zuni, not modern Zuni, but ancient Zuni, which is a language that has no other languages like it anywhere on the planet. It's an individual language that we think is as close to a star language as you can get. But ancient Zuni talks about the images in the landscape. It talks about these star nations having put their images in the landscape on purpose because they won the right to do so. And their prayers in ancient Zuni use that phrasing specifically. These star nations won the right to put their images into the landscape. So he knew the images existed, but until we got satellite data in Google Earth, we had no way to see them.
I mean, is that very kind of like similar, like the modern day version of sort of like Nazca lines and?
Yeah, only these are a whole lot bigger.
Whole lot.
I mean, some of them are seriously continent sized. And I don't know if you've tried Googling the word archaeoplanetography, but if you haven't tried just Googling it to see what comes up, or you haven't gone to officialfirstcontact.com, there is a download called, I think, Archaeoplanetography Before and After, or Outlined and Unoutlined Archaeoplanetography Images. And it shows you not only the kind, but the size and the details of images that are embedded in our landscape, in the landscape of the moon, in the landscape of Mars, And the Ponti tell us any celestial body in this galaxy they have ever been to all have archaeoplanetography images, all of them. They use them as a guidance. They can explore and understand the history of a world before they ever set foot on the planet by looking at the images in orbit, which is why they wanted to teach us the system, because we're about ready to go explore other planets, and they don't want us walking into somebody else's living room when the image is clearly marked in the landscape going, we didn't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why is no one telling NASA this? I mean, with everything
They're
that's going on.
trying. They are trying very hard to get the attention of mission planners, saying, guys, before you go to Mars, can I teach you some archaeoplanetography so you know what you're walking into, please? You need to know this stuff.
It makes sense.
So, yeah, it does make sense, because there's a whole lot of history on the red planet that we can glean from orbit.
Yep, no. Sadly, you are stuck with me for a little while, because what just occurred has kind of shaken Mika a little bit. So he's over getting comfort with Sarah at the moment.
That's okay.
So
that's okay.
He's definitely shaken a little bit, but I've just told him there's nothing to worry about. It's all good. So I don't know if you're familiar with it recently, over the last couple of weeks ago, that there was a UFO sighting over Ireland.
Yes.
It was big news everywhere.
Yeah.
Did our friends have anything to do with that, or do they have any news on it? Because it's gone very, very quiet on that front.
Well, if it's gone quiet on the government front, you always want to wonder why. And you can speculate till the cows come home.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is that there is a very regularly used flight path between England and France, and then again on the western side of Ireland, that's used to head up to the North Sea base, the underwater base up that way. Now, some flights head over toward Greenland and Iceland, because there are some facilities over off the coast of Greenland or within Greenland itself. It's nice. It's remote and nobody watches. Well, almost nobody.
Well, if you get a map and a ruler and put in where I am, and you can twist the ruler around, you will find that there is a path France straight through to said route as well. So
that makes a lot of sense to me.
That totally
and so
corroborates.
I would assume that it's a real sighting.
Some of those flight paths actually run in conjunction with the ley lines.
Yeah, some of them do. Yep, some of them
with an
follow
actual
the
energy
lines.
vortex.
Yep.
Right.
Now, I have not seen the videos to see if anybody's taken and blown up the craft of any of those Ireland sightings so that you can see the shape of the ship. But I can tell you what the Ponti ships look like, and you might be able to sort it out. If it's an aquatic vessel, it's likely oval or cylinder shaped, while the saucer shapes can go into the ocean and can handle the aquatic pressures, and that's not a huge deal for them. The more commonly shaped aquatic ships are like long cigar shapes, right, with rounded edges on both ends. The ovals will also go, but some of the aquatic bases can handle very, very large vessels. And I know that the Ponti have told us repeatedly that their craft, the real deal Zeta craft, have no seams, no rivets, no external parts. The outsides of their ships look smooth and absolutely seamless. That doesn't mean that they can't see it out or that they don't have lights. They can create windows and lights. That part is not a problem. But if it's bright white like a shiny new car, or bright silver like silver metallic, then, and completely smooth and unadorned, and it could have been an extruded ship by what you see, then likely it would be Ponti. If it's got seams and rivets at all, it's not one of theirs.
Right.
So that's how you tell with that particular Ireland sighting.
You see, yeah, I mean, I haven't seen any of the pictures, so I
I
can't.
haven't either, and that's why I
Yeah.
said if you've seen some, then you're one up on us.
So if anyone else in the chat room has seen anything or can
Yeah, send some pictures to
about
Sandia Wisdom, and maybe we can figure it out.
Right. Okay. So telepathy. So Otter, is this your speciality?
Something I do every day.
Me too, being married.
Well,
Yeah.
Once you plug in, it's kind of hard to unplug.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
You can turn the volume down, you can ignore it, but once you really, like I say, plug into the telepathic communication and understand that it is telepathy, it's a matter of managing it. And
yeah.
just
So
like
it's,
any
plug in, tune in, but you can't cop out, right?
That's right. Once you know, you cannot unknow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
There's no running for shelter.
That's right. No run for shelter. That's exactly
and don't
right.
take the green acid.
Women
Okay.
That's right.
Women and
Which color pill
children
did you want?
Bullshit.
So it's known that telepathy is our little friend's only way of communication. Can only certain people use telepathy?
I don't think there's a human being on the face of the earth that doesn't have the capability of using telepathy if they're willing to do the work on themselves that's necessary to rekindle that ability. We have all the hardware. The hard drive's there. It's always been there. So it's a matter of people learning to start hearing and realizing that that is not their head voice. It is not. It is a voice that belongs to someone or something else.
Right.
And then identifying it.
Because I think it's got to a point where we've kind of become so dumbed down by everything else, whether it be smartphones, television, reality shows and things like that. And people are kind of losing their primordial kind of instincts and, the connections that they used to have. And we've always had, and we have it within us, even though maybe certain parts of DNA are capped to do with.
Well, I watch videos of people walking the streets in New York City and their nose is in that little 3-inch by 6-inch screen. They don't have any idea what's going on around them of any kind, other than they're in the right side of the sidewalk traveling in a mob of people. That's all they know. If they become oblivious to that.
I mean, they say since the start of sort of like, the big smartphone culture and stuff, the sightings and reports of UFOs have actually gone down in time. But I think that is nothing to do with the fact that, people have got these high definition cameras and they can take pictures of anything that's going by. It's just the fact that everyone is now constantly looking down instead of looking up.
Or just even tapping into life in itself. I mean, that screen and that communication has become the bane of our society.
Absolutely. I mean, we were talking this morning on the other show that I'd done about I'm an active meditator. I like to meditate when I'm out hiking and stuff. And the connection that you get when you're away from everything and everyone is, you just feel so alive by it all, don't you? Because it's just natural.
Nature's one of the greatest places to connect.
Yeah. And you can't be in a bad mood out in nature. It's just impossible.
Yep.
So right, okay. So how does one go about learning telepathy?
Well, probably the best suggestion I could make would be to go to officialfirstcontact.com and download the free Telepathy 101 primer. That would give you small statements. I don't know if you've seen the primer or not. And you're okay. So you realize that each one of these statements that is made with each one of these slides is to provoke your thought, to provoke your insight, to provoke your self-awareness.
Yep.
Okay. To face your fears.
And it's just so everyone knows, the links for official First Contact and Infinite Voice Project are in the show description as well.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
So I'll be touching on those in a minute. And just so everyone knows that all of these downloads from Official First Contact are totally free. They're out there from Sue, Otter, and the rest of the crew for you to download and use. This information is free. It's there
Yep.
for you.
You can get Telepathy
Use it.
101 in one of 10 languages, and we have several more in the pipeline, along with, we're looking for a sign language interpreter. We've recently had Divine Fractal on Twitter put out an audio version of the Telepathy 101 primer. So if you don't want to bother to read it and you just want to watch the video and listen, you can do that too. But if you follow the instructions, and the instructions were written for the layperson, you don't have to have any scientific knowledge.
No, I got it. I
Particular
understand
practice.
Mhm.
You just have to start at the beginning and look at yourself and go, all right, if I look at how I've picked up things in the past, what would I say? If I look at how I've learned and the weird experiences that I've had, how do I build on my strengths? And then what are the protocols? And it takes about 100 days of practice, more or less, for you to get good enough that it's pretty easy for any of our Star Nation, Telepathic Nation friends to be able to hear you. But that means practice with feedback with a live other person, not just practice on your own with no feedback. We've had people who say, well, I've been practicing for 6 months and I'm not getting anywhere. And I say, do you have a live partner? Well, no, I couldn't find one. Well, then you haven't started yet.
No.
Because you need the live feedback. You have to feel what it feels like in your body to be accurate, to receive a ping, to know that you've gotten a ping from somebody else and know who that is. That takes practice and feedback. You're training your brain with a new skill.
Yep.
Just like learning to play the guitar. You would think it was normal if your guitar teacher sent you home with a practice manual and said, practice 30 minutes a day, and a week from now, come back, we'll give you lesson number 2. And you'd go, okay, because that's normal. Well, this is no different than that.
I mean,
Practice and feedback.
We're going to start it in the new year as a family. The primer. We're going to go through it. We're going to work at it. That is one of our New Year's resolutions, because it's out there, and you know, for everything that's kind of going on that we're starting to realize as we're going on now, it's you know, it's more relevant than we really think.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, to tune into kind of like, again, you know, your own primal instinct from years ago. I mean, it's there.
Exactly.
Why not use it? Make the most of it.
That's right. Make life better for you.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Can I also ask about the Infinite Voice Project? What?
Well, the Infinite Voice Project, first of all, let's define infinite voice. Infinite voice is the translation that the Ponte gave us for their concept of telepathic communication. Your voice is infinite. It goes out to anyone, everyone, everywhere, everyone.
In the
It's
universe.
in the universe. You have the capability of communicating with anyone that you wish to, and that's where the concept of infinite voice comes in. So the Infinite Voice Project, we recognized that it's going to take a village to help get this planet ready for official first contact. And while we can translate for the Ponte and are happy to do so, and have made that one of our priorities in life, we cannot spread this message by ourselves. We need everybody else's help. We cannot be the only people that the Ponte talk to or that other star nations talk to. Everybody has to get involved so that those of us who get contacted or request contact and invite them can be on the front lines of saying, these guys aren't bad guys. They're really nice. I've been talking to them for a while. Okay. So they're looking to increase the PR. Because we know that we can't do that alone, and because there are, with anything like this, behind the scenes costs.
Mhm.
And for us, to be honest, I've put my regular clairvoyant and medical intuitive business aside, and I'm doing about 10% what I normally would be doing in a week's time, because the rest of my hours are devoted to helping the Ponte. And so my income is down a considerable chunk, and we still have to eat and pay the bills. And so we are taking the profits from our Inviting ET book and funneling that back into official first contact. That's it. That's the manual on how you, with a group of other people, invite ET to come visit you. Okay. All the ins and outs, ups and downs, things you need to think about, fears that you got to address, supplies you might need, a little bit of everything is in that book. But the Infinite Voice Project at gmail.com is the donation PayPal account. And we also, as you see with what you're wearing, have some t-shirts of the artwork of the Sandia crew that we've had at least the first 4 images printed and put onto t-shirts of Radar, who you're wearing, PETA, who Mika is wearing, Drudy, who Sarah's wearing, and then Tilcom would be the last face that we have on a t-shirt. But those t-shirts are available at Official First Contact, or will be soon. We have a store coming up, and then some of the other original artwork of Sasquatch, as well as our Star Nation friends, is available for purchase, so that we can hopefully stop taking money out of my retirement to fund all of this. I've been taking several $1,000s a year out of retirement for about 5 years now, just to keep this going, so that, because we feel that the message is incredibly important for this planet.
And the fact that you've also kept the information free as well, you know,
we are trying very hard.
That makes so much credence to everything.
We, with the Inviting ET book, we put a price of $11.11 American on it on purpose. One, to spark people's awareness. But true, we didn't want to charge an arm and a leg. We didn't. We wanted and still want to keep everything as reasonable and inexpensive as possible, so that we can continue to share with everyone. So if you buy a book, the little extra that we get goes toward Official First Contact. If you buy an original art piece, the money goes toward Official First Contact. And so if you want to help and just plain donate, you can do that too. There will be a donation button when the store gets set up.
And I'll be able to donate a set amount monthly. I mean, will there be a set amount, like the lowest denomination to a highest denomination, or anything?
We haven't even thought through that. That's like a Patreon account. I think we could probably set that up. We hadn't gone that far to think through that, but it's a good suggestion. So if people wanted to donate, say $5 a month, and that's all they wanted to do. Okay.
I mean, if you can sort that out, I mean, you've got us. Okay. We'll donate every month. We'll put $10 in every month. No problem at all. We can do that.
Okay, we'll talk to our webmaster and see what we can do about. But that's a good suggestion. Thank you for that.
I mean, because we're working at the moment of possibly making this monetize in Fascination Street at some point. Because what we want to do is we want to make it a bit more professional, and with the way we are with fundings and things like that at the moment, there's no way we can do it. You know, everyone likes the entertainment, but yet they've got to understand at the same time. I'm quite happy to do this. You know, I'd love to do it free, but I want to make it more professional for people. I want to be able to do more with it. I mean, the platform that I'm doing at the moment, all fine and dandy, and having guests on every week, again, fantastic. But at the same time, you have a lot of people that aren't that photogenic, and they want to phone in rather than come on camera. And to do that on this platform, it's nigh on impossible. And your nearest platform that you're going to get is going to cost you about, I think it's about $55 a month.
Ouch.
For that to keep going. But again, you know, if people enjoy what you're doing,
then it's worth it. And so we're doing what we can, and we have a marvelous group of volunteers from all over the planet who have helped us translate things, who have stepped up and answered technical questions when we don't have them, who have been very understanding of Otter and I's lack of training with computers and anything techie, and helped us walk through things like, how do you Skype? How do you open up this button? How do you download this? I mean, we have very basic questions sometimes, and so having people that we can call and say, I hate to sound dumb, but can I ask you something?
I've never used Skype. I'm 40 years old. I was in Generation X. I've gone all the way through all this modern technology. I still never used Skype in my life. It's I don't know whether that's a credit to myself or not.
It was a learning curve for us. It was a learning curve to figure even just doing shows like this out. But sometimes you can teach old dogs new tricks, huh?
That's where we're so fortunate to have Kelly on our team as well. Without Kelly, we would be so stuffed. We
Thank
really,
you, Kelly.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. I know that you're giving up your day to sit here and listen to this. We do appreciate it so much. But I mean, when you get around to opening your online store and that, I mean, if you need us, because Sarah doesn't work, so if you need us at all to be kind of, you're based in the UK, to put stock in to send to the rest of Europe to save you payment, because we know for sending gifts to our friends over in the States how much that can cost at a time.
It surely can, and we do understand that.
I mean,
appreciate that very much.
To kind of be like your European part, if you've got other people in Europe as well. I mean, obviously, we're out there to volunteer to help you guys as well. So
thank you for
well, appreciate you having us on your show, because anything we can do to spread that ripple effect of right-minded contact and encouraging people. Listen, I know it's really freaky to think about listening to somebody else's voice in your head and taking a risk that they can control you and you don't know what they're going to do. You take the same risk if you go to the hypnotherapist, right? Same idea. You decide whether or not you trust these individuals enough that you're willing to take that risk. I can tell you from our experience over the last 5 years that the risk is well worth it. What we have gained personally as human beings in understanding the difference of a culture that is not from our world and finding the differences and the overlap, we ourselves have gained as people and are better for the experience by far. And I guess I would have to say, while we've had a number of startle responses and fearful things happen, when I look over the big picture, I wouldn't trade any of it.
No.
I would not trade any of it. We have knowledge coming in faster than we can get it out right now, Jimmy. Honest, we have a huge backlog of information that is not out on the web because we're only two people with only one set of typing hands here. Otter doesn't type. And so while we can kibitz and talk about and hash through a lot of stuff, in the end, it comes down to number of man hours on a keyboard. That is our stopping point right now. And if we had any kind of other help, we can get some of that other information out there before official first contact, which the Ponte tell us is coming up in fall of 2021. So we got 3 years.
And as I say, if there's anything we can do, I mean, we'll talk offline, but if there's anything we can do to help, as I say, we're more than happy to. Really
appreciate that very, very much. Really.
Are you okay to go for a little bit longer, or are you?
We've got another 5 minutes for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, we got killer dominoes coming up here.
Yep, we got our telepathic killer domino game coming up, and we expect to knock it on the door soon.
And Sarah's going to try and knock through these questions as quick as, because
he didn't catch it. No, you didn't catch what's on the menu tonight.
Middle Eastern tacos.
Tacos.
Middle Eastern.
Ooh, minted lamb.
No, buffalo.
Buffalo, feta cheese, Mediterranean spices. Kebab seasoning.
Brown meat. Fresh tortillas.
Fresh tomatoes, onions, a little bit of lettuce.
Little Zetar in there with it.
Zetar seasoning.
I don't like
supper's at 6 o'clock.
I just pulled that out of my back pocket yesterday afternoon.
You're all right, you are. I'm definitely in New Mexico.
We talk food at our house a lot. Okay, what you got, Sarah?
Right, we're going to try and run through these as quick as we can.
I've got a page and a half of double page.
Holy buckets. Holy buckets.
I think we're going to have to go for...
We might have to schedule another session. All right, let's go. What do you got?
Okay. Do the Ponte know who is at Mount Adams by Iseti Ranch, or what is going on there with all the activity?
Yes, there's an interstellar facility beneath Mount Adams. You have an interstellar group You've got the Jalan, the tall white people. You've got the Zetas. You've got some Nordic-looking human-type people. You've got I don't know if there's any Saurons up in that area or not. I haven't looked. The Umo, maybe. So, yes, it is an interstellar. And, yes, there is a very, very large door in the mountain that opens and closes. And when it closes, it looks like a mountain. And when it opens, it looks like there's a hole in the mountain.
No, it still looks like a mountain.
Well, so yes, valid. Absolutely valid interstellar facility up in that area.
Okie doke. Are the Ponti in any other countries in the world? Have they been to Australia?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We have people and friends who've been in touch with them there.
Yep, they visited some of our friends in Australia already. And we've gotten reports back.
Okie doke. How many Ponti are there on Earth, and what is the planet of origin, and how did they get here?
Well, one, they more than likely came in transport ships of various kinds, depending on, and there's more than one Ponti location out there because they have colonies in a number of places. So Zeta Reticuli 2, that area would be home system because there's more than one habitable planet in that system. So we call Zeta Reticuli 2 their home system. And then how many are on Earth? I have no idea. I know that the complement in the Sandia Mountain Station currently has gone from 70 to 80 on average to more than 150. I know that they have almost doubled their population just because they got new trainees coming and they're planning on more contact and more soft contact. I know that there are a number of Zeta facilities around the world, both aquatic and land-based, that are not information stations like this one. This one is specifically an information station. But are there other interstellar stations where you might see a handful of folks that are Ponti along with some other nations? Yes. How many? I don't know. I honestly don't. Even if you took 100 per information station and then multiplied it by the 4 land-based stations and more aquatic stations, you got 800 right there and probably more. So right now, your guess is as good as mine. I don't have a head count. I don't.
Okay, you mentioned work. What is the Ponti's work?
Depends on who you're talking to and where they are on the planet. The aquatic stations monitor things that are going on in the deep oceans. The land-based stations are much more involved with the Earth-human issues and the pollution issues and things along those lines. But I would say all of them that are on planet right now know that our Earth official first contact is approaching and that our climactic change is coming hard, fast, and strong. Most of them are here for one or the other or both.
Okay, that's fair enough. Right, okay. What is the... No, we've just done that one. Why do ETs seem to like to lurk around in the dark?
Well, first of all, our daylight is very hard on their eyes. They come from a planet that has a naturally dimmer star and a different light spectrum than ours. And at least with our Zeta Reticuli friends, you're dealing with a nation that prefers the night instead of the day. They're nocturnal instead of diurnal. And so they like to hang around at night, one, because they have full color night vision and can see easier than we can in the dark. And two, it doesn't give them a headache like our daytime UV does. And so why do they lurk around in the dark? Because they can see better and it's easier on them. And it's their natural tendency.
And it fulfills the protocols of
Oh yeah, do cause no harm, do no fear. Cause no fear, do no harm, leave no trace.
Yep.
That's the mission protocol that they've taught us.
Okay. Do the Punty dance, sing, talk?
Only on Mika's bed.
They they definitely dance. They do not sing. You don't want them to sing. Can they talk? Yes, they actually do have vocal cords, but it is a seldom used muscle. Okay, you know how you
sounds like a squeaky toy for a dog.
It kind of does. It kind of does. He's right. They have you can imagine an adolescent's voice going through a voice change from young man to more mature man, and from child to man, and how much they don't have control necessarily over their vocal cords during that time frame, and they can squeak. Well, the Ponti can do that same kind of thing. Yeah. So have we heard them make mouth sounds? Yes. I have never actually heard them attempt to speak with vocal cords. Not in 5 years. But has somebody come up and blown a raspberry in my ear? Mm-hmm. Yeah, twice. I'm not kidding.
I don't suppose you heard that, did you? That's Jim saying you've got to stop that, Otter. Do you suggest any self-telepathic exercises?
All in the Prima.
It's all in the Prima, really, isn't it?
Prima.
Meditation is a good avenue.
Yeah. Anything that takes you into that no-brainer timelessness feel will put you into that receptive state. And so in order to get practiced at walking with a foot in each world, we tell our students that it's a good idea to add to the times where you're naturally in that receptive state every day, but to insert fun in with their telepathic practice, because by purposefully choosing something that you enjoy greatly to do that telepathic practice or move into that daydreamy, aware state, timelessness state, the more fun you have, the faster you're going to learn your telepathy. It changes your brain and body chemistry. So we encourage games. We encourage table games. One, if you want to play table games at your home after the first of the year, just about any table game that you play where you have to consider future moves ahead of time and involve touching objects, whether it's dice or Monopoly tokens or cards or some other kind of game that you're playing in front of you, as long as you are pitted against other people that you know well and are working on a strategy of some kind during the course of the game, and you're having fun and giving each other all kinds of hard time and laughing your heads off, you will be able to practice your telepathy with each other and ping each other more accurately, faster, and easier than if you were not having fun. So get the old-fashioned table games out and have a good time once a week.
Okay. What are the Prentice schools like?
We haven't had extensive discussions with them about the schools. We've seen a couple of things. One, Trudy let us know that on the colony where she grew up, she was in a group of skilled, I don't know if I could say like age group, but like skill set other young people. And once they were grouped together as a classroom, if I can, or a group in a class, those students stayed together for the most part until they got into their advanced training. So they got to know each other very, very well. So friends in school or schoolmates become very important people in your lives, like brothers and sisters. There are specialized areas and evaluation of your skills that you were naturally given at birth for every single member of their culture. it's not only what are you innately good at, we want you to have that opportunity, but what are you emotionally drawn toward? What do you gravitate toward? We want you to enjoy what you're doing for your career. So we do know that they are encouraged to pursue things that bring them a great deal of joy and satisfaction. And that part of evaluation may send them off world for their education.
Mm-hmm.
It would not be unusual for a family to send one of their children to another planet if they were specialized in an area and say needed special training that they could not receive at home.
Okay. Are CE5s always live in person?
No, technically a CE5 by definition is back and forth voluntary dialogue with a Star Nation person. Can you have a dialogue with a Star Nation person without them being present in the room with you?
Yes.
Yes, you can. Can somebody be sitting in a ship over our house and dialogue with us while we're sitting in our living room? Yes. Can somebody, if you go out into, let's say, a national forest, and you decide that you and a group of your best friends are going to have a CE5 out there, and whoever it is contacts all of you but remains in their ship while they talk to you, is it still a CE5 even though you haven't met them face to face? Yes. Yes, it is. It's voluntary back and forth communication with a Star Nation person. That's technically a CE5.
Okay. Now, we're doing well because I've only got 2 questions left, so I've planned these out quite quickly. Tinette has said she saw a star when she zoomed in. It looked like a plasma ball. Do you know what that was?
It was a plasma field around the ship that helps them shift phases and travel in a way that exceeds the speed of light.
Okay. And lastly, any thoughts on the supposed alien craft found in the Bermuda Triangle?
Which one?
Which one? There's several there.
Yeah, there's, first of all, I know of one sitting off of the magnetic anomaly that's off the southeast coast of Bimini, maybe?
Yeah,
somewhere in that neck of the woods.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not the only one.
Yeah, any thoughts on the supposed alien craft that crashed in the Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah, so until we find out which one, we can't make comment, but we do know that there is at least one at the minimum. And there are some really interesting archaeoplanetography images down in that area as well. And when I look on the ocean floor, I think we're looking at some pretty significant structures.
Mm-hmm.
And then it makes me wonder about the anomalies down there. I do know that if you go down, be south of Cuba, east of the Yucatan Peninsula, the Mariana Trench has got some interesting activity going on way down deep. What exactly it is, they won't tell us, but we get images of them coming and going from that area more than not. So we know that it's busy for a reason. We just don't exactly know why.
Okay. Brilliant. That's it. I've got through
Hey,
all the questions.
nailed it.
Brilliant.
Well
awesome.
done, Sarah. Well done. Well done.
So we handled the chat room. Did we get all your questions, Mika? Did we answer what you needed to know? Awesome.
Right. There was only one more that I had for you, Sue and Otter, if that's cool to conclude with. You say that our Zeta friends live for, is it 400 years?
Average 400 years, 450 with good health. But those who choose extended stay within our gravity on planet and don't leave shorten their lives.
That's it. That was the question.
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're
also,
welcome.
Anyone to think you're a clairvoyant, you know? Are you psychic?
Telepathic?
Also, that was the album that was in Mika's bedroom at the time,
Oh, wow.
Angels and Airwaves. Now, this guy,
Yeah.
as most in the chat room will know, is Tom DeLong, who heads up
Yeah.
to the Stars Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And on the back is the track listing, and there's one on there which is specifically about alien contact.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I'll send you the cover in a
Okay.
message later on, as well as the pictures of the castle and the fortress and that.
Yes, and we would love at some point in time, if we ever get over to the UK, we'd love to come visit and see your castle.
You'd be more than well. Honestly, I'd be glad to take you out there
Tour
because
guide.
I know it so well now. I really do that wouldn't
That
be a
sounds
problem at all.
fun.
And there's a few battle sites that I'd love to take Otter to as well, because I know you totally dig
If
that.
you
I'm
decide
sure.
you want a CE5 in your area and you need some hosts and hostesses, call us and let us know.
On top of the White Cliffs of Dover, maybe.
Maybe. Sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah.
Sounds
And
good.
would you be cool to come back on again?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Had a good time.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Honestly, thank you so much, Sue. Otter,
You're
you've been
very
fantastic.
welcome.
And honestly, this has been our biggest interview to date. And thank you.
After you get off the air, you're going to come up with another 1,000 questions that you forgot
Why
to
didn't I
ask.
ask this?
Yeah, I guarantee you. So write them down because they're going to come up and just start your list.
Well, say
And
the
we'll
next
get into
one I
whatever
want
it
to
is
do
next time.
be specifically Archaea planetography and Sasquatch as well, because we haven't touched on any of
Absolutely.
that.
And we've got all kinds of information on both that we can touch on.
Sure.
So
That's
sounds
fantastic.
good. Sounds like a plan.
All right.
Thank
so
you,
much
guys.
for joining
Mika,
us.
thank you very much. You look good in your shirt.
Thank you for the shirts as
You're
well.
welcome.
You're welcome.
We love you guys so much. And again, we'll speak to you afterwards. All right.
All right. Wear your day
Thank
with
you.
ease, guys.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Otter. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Right. Okay. So we'll cut. Come on, Kelly. Cut the feed. There we go. Well,
What an amazing interview.
that was more than we could have ever wished for. That was our best.
And one of the weirdest shows that I've ever had.
I don't know, apart from that time that we've done that show, the
whole
dog
feed is cut.
apart from the time that, like, is it?
The whole feed is gone.
Are we still live, chat room?
Yes, you're still live.
Hey, thank you very much.
We've gone off.
Oh, because the feed's cut on Sarah's. Okay.
On my phone, it's.
Well, turn it off and then back on.
It's still. They're saying still live. Sorry,
Okay.
guys.
Right. So again, the best interview so far. I'm sure you'll agree. I mean, that was phenomenal. It had everything, including
people
visit as well. Which
lovely aliens, Zetas.
Thank you.
Came to our house and visited me.
How are you feeling?
One thing that I really didn't expect was at our window that I showed you guys, there was 3 blue dots and they flashed like this. And then what happened was then it looked like it was snowing inside. It looked so weird in my head. And you know what? I got Daddy when Mummy were doing the quick questions, and I was like, Dad, it's snowing outside. And he goes, no, that's Uncle Gary's garden. And I'm not realising that it actually is. I'm shaking him to look at hardly nothing.
Your mind's starting to play tricks now, isn't it? Because you've had that initial jump, and I'm not sure how many of you actually heard it in the chat room, but that was quite a thud. And our house doesn't make noises like that. It really doesn't. And it wasn't next door. I can point exactly where it isn't.
It's pointing that way.
Anyway, we really hope that you've enjoyed this as much as we've enjoyed doing it, because it's still to this date our biggest, best, and just favourite episode. And I'm really, really looking forward to having Sue and Otter on again and really hope that everyone can join us. Any final thoughts or anything, Sarah?
No, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
Really has. The chat has been amazing.
Let me spin you around,
the
see Sarah, everyone.
have been amazing. Thank you all for the questions as well. And we wanted to do something a little bit different, just talking just about the Zetas. We wanted to make sure that we got more about Sue and Otter, so you actually got to know them more than just about the Zetas and all of that.
My best friends.
And we hope that we've actually covered that, and hoped that we've changed a few of your I know there was a couple of people that were in the chat that weren't quite sure, and I hope we've changed your minds. So thank you.
And thank you very much, Sarah, for being the chat master.
As always.
So there we go. I mean, when I first heard the story, I was on the fence to begin with. But then when I kind of listened a little bit more, there's no way. I mean, to have that happen during the show as well, that was
really weird. And then I closed the door completely, and then the door started to open. I'm just like, Dad, the door's opening. And Dad told me that some air's coming in. So it's probably that. And I was just like, that air can't be that strong. That door is heavy. That's wood, proper wood. How can that kind of figure open a wood door? Dad. Ow!
I thought I'd get you before you got me. So, chat room. Anything for us? Because I think we touched on most things. Is there anything that you think that could have been done differently, or anything that maybe we should touch on the next interview with Sue and Otter? Because we, as I say, we've managed to get Kevin Estrella as well, who is another part of the Sandia Mountain team. He's kind of more of an associate part as well. So we've got him coming on soon to talk about his Pyramids on Mars music, his association with the Sandia Mountain Crew, and also talk about his radio station as well.
Mark, why the moustache?
Why not?
It's Freddie Mercury.
Because it goes with that bit there. I mean, I run it past that little man. I ran it past Sarah. Everyone was like, yeah, it's cool. Kelly, I think she was all right with it. I know. You're worried about it tickling your top lip, aren't you, Mark? Don't worry about that. It's fine. I got you covered. Yeah. God, don't leave Daddy hanging. Is there anything else?
No.
Right, so if that's all that you've got for us, we'll just give it another moment.
He don't mind it. You need more fertilizer.
It's only like day 3, Mark. Come on, mate. Come on. I'm only a young little buck. I don't have like manly bits. Although I did shave that bit down there as well, so I kept my feltrum. That's it. That bit there, feltrum. I did keep that clear because I think that looks quite distinguished if you have like a little split down there. And I'm not trying to do a David Beckham on anyone, trust me. But anyway, so I think that just about wraps up another episode of Fascination Street. Would you like to come and address your public?
Shush. This show is sponsored by PMG Goods, a member of our clothing by a member of our community. And if you type in FS 15 off, you will be able to get every order off, if it is for 15% off, more than $40 more or less.
No, it's more.
Yes,
it's always more, never less.
More.
And also, I do know that PMG Goods at the moment will be doing the Fascination Street range. So all the shirts that we have will be in there with a hat as well. And I know that Peter's also got some fantastic other deals and bundles on the way as well. So please go and check out pmggoods.com. Sarah's just putting the link up now, in case you forget. And yeah, see what we've got. There won't be no Fascination Street next week because Sarah and I have tickets to go and see David Icke.
Woo!
I have messaged David Icke to see whether or not we may be able to get a few minutes with him. Chances are we probably won't. But if we do, we'll either try and we will do some live feed while we're there. But if we do get to meet David Icke, obviously we will do a short interview with him to be able to put out for you guys at home. So, from Sarah.
See you in a couple of weeks.
From the little fella.
See you in a couple of weeks, guys.
And I will see you in a couple of weeks as well. Thank you so much for giving your time to us. There's lots of things that you could have been doing, but you chose to stick with us. So thank you very much. Have a lovely day, evening, afternoon.
Goodbye.
Doing whatever you're doing. Thank you. See ya.